Hello and welcome to Chinese Novel Audiobook. Explore our playlist for more captivating novels, and don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new video. Now, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 21 Field Trial. Zhenbang, your performance yesterday was something I could only look up to. I wouldn't even dare speak like that in front of Grandpa. From now on, you're my big brother. Nie Zhenbang said excitedly as they walked the streets of Jingcheng. Everyone had expected Nie Zhenbang to be helpless when Grandpa got angry. But to everyone's surprise, Grandpa's bark was worse than his bite, and he left. Everyone was left dumbfounded. In fact, Nie Zhenbang had made a correct bet. Grandpa had spent his whole life doing political work. Patience and attention to detail were the key. Nie Zhenbang saw this and dared to be bold. It turned out that Nie Zhenbang's bet paid off. Then, Nie Zhenbang laughed and said, "Little brother, don't mention it anymore. Let's find a place quickly. Yang Onbong and Xiao Yali, these two restless fellows, might be back in less than a week. If we haven't found a place by then, they might attack us." At that time, there was no professional commercial real estate in Jingcheng. The street-side stores were basically state-owned units. Wangfujing Department Store was still called Jingcheng City Department Store, and only 2 years ago did it begin pilot separation from the government. The establishment of limited shareholding had to wait until 5 years later. The larger buildings basically belonged to government agencies or state-owned enterprises. Renting them was out of the question. Just then, a wall came into Nie Zhenbang's view. The state-owned Jingcheng Second Textile Factory. Looking at the factory buildings near the street, which were less than 10 meters from the road, and the space between the factory buildings was not very wide, at most 5 meters, Nie Zhenbang's mind became active. He had fallen into a trap of thinking that he hadn't considered factories. But the most common thing in Jingcheng City was enterprises located near the streets. Some had good productivity, but some were nearly bankrupt. This was an opportunity for him. In the east of Chang'an Street, a factory suddenly came into Nie Zhenbang's view near Wangfujing Street. The factory was less than 1,000 meters away from Wangfujing Street. As the most famous commercial area in Jingcheng, this unexpected factory location was an opportunity Nie Zhenbang had not anticipated. Central District Hardware Parts Factory. Looking at the somewhat old sign in front of him, the gate was locked, and an old man was sitting in the open air beside a reception room, sunbathing. Nie Zhenbang approached him and knocked on the iron gate. "Old man, why is your factory closed?" The old man looked displeased and sniffed at Nie Zhenbang. "Hey, you young man, can you speak? What does it mean to be closed? The factory has moved to the suburbs. Isn't it close to the business street here?" The district was bothered by the noise when the factory was in operation. So, it moved. Hearing this, Nie Zhenbang was overjoyed. The perfect opportunity had come so easily. He'd been looking everywhere, but he didn't expect to find such a prime location in this commercial center. Looking from the iron gate into the factory, it had an area of about 20 to 30 mu. There were 20 factory buildings in total. The one closest to the street was about 15 meters away. The spaces between the buildings were very small, probably because they didn't produce large machinery and didn't require large vehicles. The width of the factory road was only about 5 meters. It would be very convenient for renovation. Based on the calculation of 500 square meters per factory building, there were 10,000 square meters of factory buildings alone. After expansion and integration of these buildings, the total business area would be at least 14,000 square meters, although it was only one story. Yet, it was more than enough for now. "Old man, I want to ask you a question. Does the use right of this factory belong to the district or the factory?" Nie Zhenbang took a panda cigarette from his pocket, handed one to the old gatekeeper and started chatting. The old gatekeeper, half squinting his eyes and examining the filter, softened his expression. "It belongs to the factory. But after the new year, it will belong to the district." "Why, boy, do you want to rent it?" Nie Zhenbang shook his head, stood up and laughed. "Old man, do I look like I can afford to rent it? It's just a boss who wants to rent, and I'm helping him look around for suitable places." "Old man, you go ahead. I'll be off now." The hardware factory should have a good relationship with the Second Light Department. At this point, Nie Zhenbang was pondering. As a 40-year-old man who had suffered a great deal, Although his body became young, his psychological age was similar to a 40-year-old man's. He was not at an impulsive age to start a business entirely on his own. As long as he got a relationship he could use, Nie Zhenbang would make full use of it. The second light department, Nie Zhenbang seemed to recall, Director Guo, the aunt Huang Yurong's close friend, held the position of deputy director of the financial department there. After Grandpa's death and the Nie family's downfall, Guo Xianglin had visited once, but nobody introduced her due to the situation at that time. However, she did tell Huang Yurong her office phone number, which was quite simple. Nie Zhenbang remembered it. Guo Xianglin and Huang Yurong were so close they could trust each other with their lives, otherwise, she wouldn't have made a risky visit. Having thought of this, Nie Zhenbang excitedly said, "Little brother, we've got a lead on our location." "What kind of outcome?" "Zhenbang, you're being cryptic." Nie Zhenbang was confused. "Hee, second brother, do you know who owns this factory?" "It's owned by the Secondary Light Industry Bureau of the city." "What do you think? Can we rent it if we get the leaders of the Secondary Light Industry Bureau involved?" Nie Zhenbang laughed. Nie Zhenbang is not a fool, but he puckered up his face, "But we don't know anyone from the Secondary Light Bureau either." Nie Zhenbang mysteriously said, "We definitely have acquaintances. However, it's up to you to take this call. This leader is your mom's best friend. Whether this can work out or not depends on you." He walked to a public phone booth and dialed Guo Xianglin's number. The voice he was very familiar with from his previous life sounded on the other side of the phone. Nie Zhenbang froze for a moment, then quickly adjusted his mentality and politely said, "Aunt Guo. I'm Zhenbang. I met you last time at my house. Do you remember?" On the other side, Guo Xianglin was stunned for a while, then soon came to her senses. "Zhenbang. You are Yurong's son. Why did you suddenly remember to call Aunt Guo? Did you do something wrong and want me to plead your case?" The sons and daughters of the elite in Jingcheng City have almost all used this trick, making mistakes outside and then fearing being scolded. Most of them take this path, and it seems like Guo Xianglin's son often uses this method. At this moment, Guo Xianglin still regarded Nie Zhenbang as a child and naturally thought of this. Nie Zhenbang momentarily broke a cold sweat and quickly tried to steer her away from that assumption with a laugh. "Aunt Guo, do you think I'm that kind of person? It's just my mom who recently wanted to go shopping, so I'm calling to set up a date with you. Also, I have a small favor to ask of you. So, I'm killing two birds with one stone. You kid, you know how to sweet talk better than my son. Go ahead, what can Aunt Guo help you with?" Guo Xianglin also began to scold and laugh on the phone. Shopping was a pretext, and discussing the affairs was the real objective. However, Guo Xianglin was glad for Huang Yurong that her son was really not an ordinary one. "Aunt Guo, it's like this. Are you familiar with the Central District Hardware Parts Factory? I saw that their factory is idle, and a friend wants to rent it to do some business. But I don't have any contacts, so can you help me ask?" Nie Zhenbang got straight to the point and started talking. At last, he added, "Aunt Guo, rest assured, it's absolutely legitimate. They are Hong Kong businessmen who have plenty of money. There will absolutely be no problem with the rent." On the other side, Guo Xianglin also began to laugh. "Haha, you're such a little generous soul. Do you really think I'm worried about you? Aunt Guo is just afraid you might get cheated. Well, it's not a big deal. Let me call the Secondary Light Industry Bureau of Central District to ask for you. Are you at the factory? Okay, wait a moment. I'll have someone from their side come to meet you so you can stay in touch." Within half an hour, a jeep and a Volga stopped at the entrance of the hardware factory. Four middle-aged men got out of the car. Seeing Nie Zhenbang and Nie Zhenbang standing at the factory gate, one of them quickly came forward to greet them. "Hello, hello. Which of you is Nie Zhenbang? My name is Wang Yunrong, director of the Secondary Light Industry Bureau of Central District. Director Guo gave me a call, saying that you want to lease this factory. I specifically called the person in charge here. The two people beside me are Secretary Qin Weihong of the Hardware Factory Party Committee and Factory Manager Chao Xinghua." As soon as he met, Wang Yunrong shook hands with Nie Zhenbang very enthusiastically. Although Director Guo was only the deputy director of the Finance Bureau, he held significant power. Compared to him, they were worlds apart. Although director Guo did not reveal Nie Zhenbang's background on the phone, the mere fact that he was a son of her best friend was enough. Anyone whom director Guo called her best friend with would definitely have quite an impressive background. Nie Zhenbang shook hands with a smile. Director Wang, you're too polite. I should be the one to visit you. I feel a bit guilty to have made you come in person. Hello, Secretary Qin. Hello, Factory Manager Chao. Director Wang, let me introduce to you, this is my younger brother, my second uncle's son Nie Zhenbang. He's the one who wants to rent this factory. In your opinions, how much annual rent would be suitable for this factory? Nie Zhenbang also smiled and greeted the three. He was very polite to Director Wang, but in front of Secretary Qin and Factory Manager Chao, Nie Zhenbang exuded a sense of nobility. This excited Director Wang even more. This is truly the demeanor of someone from an established family. He immediately signaled the factory manager, Chao Xinghua, who understood and replied, Mr. Nie, leasing out the factory can be beneficial to us, too. In our opinion, annually, about 30,000 yuan. 30,000 yuan for renting a 30-acre factory. If this were 24 years later, it would probably barely be enough for 30 square meters. Nie Zhenbang did not quibble over this. He looked at the three and said, the rent is not expensive, but can the factory be tested first? Chapter 22 Gaining from someone without giving anything in return. Trial run. The three people were a bit stunned upon hearing this. Was it possible to have a trial run for a property lease? This wasn't something intangible. However, Director Wang was a shrewd and clever man. He stared at Nie Zhenbang and Nie Zhenbang, deep in thought. It appeared these two intended to receive something for nothing. Many high-ranking officials engaged in such tactics in Jingcheng. At this moment, it was impossible to directly refuse. Not just because it would be embarrassing for Director Wang, but also because he himself would find it difficult to explain this to Director Guo. Thus, Director Wang asked with a smile, Mr. Nie, what exactly do you mean by a trial run? Nie Zhenbang attained the reaction he wanted. Looking at the three, he calmly said, Director Wang, it's simple. I'm renting this place with the intention of building a supermarket. This would cause all of your factory buildings to be renovated, and the roads in the factory area to be covered. The entire factory area would be expanded as a whole. Just think about the huge investment from the other party, it's definitely not less than 2 years' rent. If it doesn't work, I plan to withdraw and pay you based on the actual months used. I won't take anything with me when I leave. So technically, you'd still profit. Director Wang listened and pondered. Turning a factory into a supermarket seemed unlikely. Just renovation and reconstruction would probably take half a year. Was it possible to finish it in time? However, looking at Nie Zhenbang's serious expression and the sizable physical investment, it didn't seem like a joke. Buildings can't be moved like rented cars or properties. Worse comes to worse, a few months of rent would be credited to him. Anything more might cause difficulties. Ultimately, the factory belonged to the collective and even he did not have the final say. If the workers disagreed, there could be a massive uproar, which could escalate to top authorities as this was happening under the nose of the imperial court. After a moment's hesitation, Director Wang asked Nie Zhenbang, Mr. Nie, I have no problem with a trial run, but I am not sure how long your friend plans to try it out. Nie Zhenbang laughed upon hearing this. If the conversation had gotten to this point, then he was successful. He replied promptly, 3 months trial period. In addition, there will be 1 month for renovation. This large factory area comes with a considerable amount of work. Without half a year's time, it simply can't open for business. If possible, I can represent my friend and immediately sign an agreement with you. Nie Zhenbang was employing a clever tactic here. While half a year's renovation seemed like a lot, to Nie Zhenbang, completing it in a month was not overly difficult. With a simple piece of paper on the office desk in the communication room, and after signing the agreement with factory director Chao, Nie Zhenbang extended his hand saying, Please take good care of me in future, factory director Chao. Director Wang, thank you for today. When I have time in the future, I will be the host and invite you for a drink. After securing the factory, Nie Zhenbang did not wait for Yang Onbong and Xiao Yali to return and immediately started renovations. First, all the fences along Chang'an Street were removed, and the bricks were reused. The walls of the street-side factory began undergoing renovations. Following the original height of the wall, new tiles were added. The roof above the street-side factory was converted into large billboards veiling the original roof. Meanwhile, the interior walls were also transformed. Original walls were demolished, and load-bearing pillars made of a square meter of brick concrete were constructed at positions where the truss beams were subjected to force. This made the entire 10,000+ square meters area appear open. The sign for the Walmart supermarket had also been put up. A large advertisement was hung on the street-facing wall, indicating that Walmart was under renovation and was scheduled to officially open on December 18. They requested people to look forward to it, although this promotional tactic is commonly used in later years, applying it in this era caused quite the stir. With Xiao Yali and Yang Onbong's efforts, Capital City TV station and other media followed up with continuous reports on Walmart. Under Nie Zhenbang's planning, Walmart's Hong Kong background and detailed information regarding the supermarket slowly got revealed in the media. In less than half a month, news about Walmart had spread all over Jingcheng. In the two-story office building behind the hardware factory, the place was already turned into the Jingcheng headquarters of Walmart Supermarket Company Limited. Right now, in Yang Onbong's office, looking at the renovation nearing completion, preparing for interior decoration and shelving, Yang Onbong was a bit anxious. "Zhenbang, you've spectacularly leased this property without spending a dime, even gaining a free month for renovations. Brother, I have to admire you. But brother, it's the end of October, and November is approaching. What should we do with our goods? We've spent a large portion of our funds on the overhaul, and little remains." At this moment, Nie Zhenbang was very relaxed. As someone from the future, he knew how booming supermarkets were. To describe it as making a fortune day by day wouldn't be an exaggeration. He lightly chuckled and said to Xiao Yali, "Sister, how goes the task I gave you? Did the bank agree to the loan?" Xiao Yali nodded and said, "After reviewing our registered capital and company qualifications and inspecting our sales area, the bank has agreed to lend us money, up to 300,000. Hearing this news, Nie Zhenbang also excitedly clenched his fists. He did not worry about sourcing the goods. As long as the supermarket could open, the sales volume would explain everything. Now, if the renovations were suspended due to lack of funds, that would be a serious matter indeed. The loan of 300,000 from the bank had been credited. To Nie Zhenbang, this was an event far more important than obtaining the goods. Now, upon hearing the confirmed news, he had a feeling of immense relief. He then looked towards Yang Onbong and said, "Brother Yang, thank your friend, and start advertising. Take out 50,000 yuan from what my sister has and run the ad campaign across the entire city. Also, mobilize your contacts to get us some of the most sought-after commodities. We are gearing up to get started with the goods." The reasoning behind the supermarket's name, Walmart, was very simple in Nie Zhenbang's mind. It took a letter from both Walmart and Carrefour. Once the Walmart supermarket opens, it would certainly surpass them. In the future, they would probably not have much of a role to play domestically. Walmart supermarket is now open for business, located at the busiest Wangfujing Street. A huge shopping supermarket of 16,000 square meters. Over 100,000 top-quality products for customers to choose from. The prices are the lowest, the quality the best. The products are the most affordable. Now facing the whole country, sincerely inviting good suppliers. Due to limited quota, the first 10 to sign up will be exempted from supermarket entry fees. At the same time, the supermarket will place these products in the best position among products of the same kind, to achieve the best results. The first 30 will get a half-price discount on the entrance fees. Without a second thought, Nie Zhenbang said this advertising phrase. At this moment, compared to his previous life, compared to 24 years later, it was simply improvised, without any hint of consideration. Following Nie Zhenbang's order, once again, the advertisement for the Walmart supermarket appeared in the streets and alleys of Jingcheng. Unlike the common folk who were engaged in spectating the lively happenings, all the factions and families in Jingcheng started to move into action. The alliance of the Nie family and the Yang family proved that the Nie family was already standing behind the decision-makers. Unlike the upheaval among the upper class, Walmart supermarket's goods suppliers also began to make progress. Under the joint strike of Yang Onbong and Nie Zhenbang, despite their young age, their status was clearly demonstrated. Many state-owned factories could not resist the face and chose to settle in. At the same time, with the continuing bombardment of supermarket advertisements, some private wholesalers also began to lose patience. After tens of thousands or even 100,000 people pass by every day, it's not something that ordinary people can resist. Boss Dai, aren't you afraid that these goods will be swallowed up by them? Ha ha ha, how much is this little merchandise worth? Such a big company and such a large supermarket, I believe that these bosses won't cheat us. Big deal, their daily advertising costs could cover your orders. I'm not afraid. As the first one stepped forward, the second one also began to get excited. Across the nation, everyone's attention was focused on the Walmart supermarket. Little brother, I admire you, really. Say, CHEEO, Since the admission fees were collected, the price has been half or discounted, but now, it is sold at the original price. Yet, the enthusiasm of the suppliers has been ignited, and they were almost all ready to put everything on the line. Another month passed, and all the renovations in the supermarket were completed. As the renovations neared their end, on Yang Onbong's side, they immediately recruited more than 100 people. 70 yuan a month. The income was not high in Jingcheng, but now they were all busy arranging the shelves. When the last bag of rice was stacked high, the whole supermarket under the lighting looked like daybreak. Yang Onbong, clutching the railing tightly at this moment, murmured to himself, whether it's a worm or a dragon, it all depends on tomorrow's grand opening. Chapter 23 Causing a sensation. In order to align with international large-scale formal supermarkets, Nie Zhenbang specially used the connections of Nie Guowei to introduce the most advanced barcode identification system and cash register system from the United States under the auspices of the National Planning Commission and the Foreign Economic and Trade Commission. It was a brand new cash register computer brought in from IBM, lined up in a row, with a total of 30 cashier outlets. Nie Guowei was about to leave office, and the recent performance of Nie Zhenbang had surprised him. If Nie Zhenbang had done this according to the character of the old man before, he would have been driven out of the Nie family long ago. The fact that Nie Zhenbang is still living so comfortably now is abnormal in itself. This small matter, Nie Guowei naturally would not refuse. After all, it's a good opportunity to improve his relationship with Nie Zhenbang. Second brother, has the cashier training been completed? Can they all operate independently? Walking in the supermarket, at this moment, Nie Zhenbang also had a feeling as if he had returned to the 21st century. When the supermarket began to operate, Nie Zhenbang naturally returned to school. The stake in the supermarket was just a quota. The actual person in charge was still Yang Onbong. Since Nie Zhenbang doesn't have much to do, he naturally went back to school. At this time, Yang Onbong was already amazed by Nie Zhenbang. Those state-owned factories, such as Hucheng Daily Chemical Factory, Nanjing Radio Factory and so on, paid hefty entry fees to have their products entered into the supermarket. Free merchandise restocking was no problem. After all, Yang Onbong, Nie Zhenbang and Xiao Yali held their joint identity here. The energy they exert together is not to be underestimated. Naturally, some people will curry favor with them, and there is a certain amount of human relationships involved. However, the products from the Hong Kong, Taiwan and private enterprises in Jiangnan Province and Yudong Province also agreed to pay entrance fees for free stocking. This confused Yang Onbong. This era was still a time of commodity shortage. What these factories produced was almost always in short supply. Is there any need to humble oneself in this way? Sister, the cashiers are your responsibility. Tomorrow, when the store opens, make all 60 cashiers come to work. Be on standby in 2 shifts at any time, Nie Zhenbang ordered again. Xiao Yali nodded, also somewhat puzzled. Zhenbang, all of them will be on duty. We have so many people coming in to buy things. Nie Zhenbang smiled without answering. The early phase advertising had already gone out. For these 2 months, from national leaders to common people in Jingcheng, everyone was talking about Walmart supermarket. At the same time, the messages of high quality and inexpensive goods, everyday low prices, wide variety of goods, and the ability to purchase without any plan have been spread out. Moreover, Nie Zhenbang also used some small techniques from future supermarket promotions, such as the first 50 customers who enter the store can get 2 kilograms of rice for a consumption of 10 yuan, which fully utilized the curiosity and penny-pinching mentality of the Jingcheng citizens. At 8 o'clock the next morning, before Walmart even opened, there were already thousands of ordinary people gathered outside the door. Seeing this scene, Yang Onbong and Xiao Yali jumped with excitement, hugged each other, and shouted loudly, "We succeeded! We succeeded! We have succeeded!" Nie Zhenbang smiled and looked at the two, showing a triumphant smile. These two people, from the initial skirmishes when they first met, seemed to have sparked something now. Then, Nie Zhenbang coughed and said, "Second boss, second lady boss, do you need to be mindful of your behavior? There is a miner nearby." Seeing the angry look on Xiao Yali's face, Nie Zhenbang immediately said, "Second brother, get some firecrackers ready for the opening." A set of 100,000 firecrackers was ignited. Although Jingcheng City prohibits the use of fireworks and firecrackers, this small matter naturally could not affect people like Yang Onbong. If they couldn't even cope with this, they might as well have lived these years in vain. For the grand opening, Nie Zhenbang specially asked Xiao Yali to borrow a company of soldiers from her second uncle in the army. They all took off their military uniforms, put on security uniforms, and temporarily acted as the security forces for Walmart supermarket. In this era, working in a private enterprise was the last resort. Even in Jingcheng, it would be difficult to find so many security guards in such a short time. With the opening of the doors, the crowd rushed in. At each entrance, there was a girl with an excellent image and temperament, smiling and guiding customers to deposit their bags at the main service desk. The supermarket industry is a completely new industry in the country. These ordinary people were like unmarried girls getting married, experiencing everything for the first time. They naturally needed guidance. Inside the supermarket, a dazzling array of merchandise fills the shelves, from trend-setting clothing from Yudong province, consumer electronics and bicycles manufactured by large state-owned factories to food from all over the country. Nutritional malt drinks, powdered milk, various electronic products from Hong Kong and Yudong. Shoes, sweaters, suits, socks, and much more. You don't need any ration coupons. As long as you have money, you can buy whatever you want. Even better, by cutting out the middleman wholesaler, Walmart supermarket achieves a lower cost base than wholesale distributors anywhere else. After all, wholesalers procure goods in small volumes resulting in higher transportation costs, far exceeding those incurred by Walmart supermarket. "Old Chen, look, this bicycle only costs $160. It's a brand model from Hucheng Phoenix. Last time I checked at the Jingdong Mall, it was over $60 pricier. Our son has been wanting one of these for a while, hasn't he? Why not buy it for him today while it's cheap? We may not have this opportunity again." A middle-aged woman, pushing a shopping cart, somewhat fascinated, said to the man beside her. The middle-aged man examined the bicycle. The quality and craftsmanship were outstanding. It was clearly not a counterfeit. He nodded and replied, "I am going to withdraw some money. Please wait for me here." Such scenes continued to play out in every corner of the supermarket. The average price of goods in the supermarket was 30 to 35% cheaper than outside. This was a genuine bargain that no one was willing to miss. Throughout the day, news of Walmart supermarket's low prices spread throughout Jingcheng City. The supermarket's slogan, "Everyday low price," also circulated with it, gradually making its meaning apparent to Jingcheng citizens. From opening at 8 in the morning to closing at 10 at night, the store was always overflowing with customers. The supermarket's 60 cashiers worked in shifts, but by closing time, they were all close to exhaustion. At this point, representatives from factories nationwide occupied every available office space within the two-story office building of Walmart supermarket. Nie Zhenbang took a look, then stood up and said, "Looks like this meeting room can't fit everyone. How about we go down to the supermarket and wait for the sales results there?" Outside the exit of the supermarket's cash registers, tables and chairs were brought out. The group of people, like a rural village meeting, sat together. Half an hour later, Xiao Yali, the overjoyed chief of finance at Walmart supermarket, waved a report in her hand and said to Nie Zhenbang and Yang Onbong, "The total daily revenue has been counted. It exceeded 1 million and reached a total of 1,008,365 yuan and 6 cents. Nie Zhenbang, though he was prepared, didn't show any surprised expression. Yang Onbong, however, was left dumbfounded. 1 million in a day, assuming the supermarket's gross profit at about 20%, implied a profit of 200,000 in a day. Opening a supermarket was like printing money. Nie Zhenbang laughed and said, "Brother, this is just the first day. Many people overspent. In the future, the income won't be as substantial as it was today. But I estimate that about 300,000 a day would be normal. You can't expect customers to buy televisions and bicycles every day." At that moment, all the factory representatives received the sales details of their products. The bicycle factory alone had sold around 200 bicycles in just one day. With such booming business, all of them felt reassured that their investment in Walmart supermarket would pay off. Sole distributorship contracts were enough to assuage their concerns. Just think, this was only the first store. What will happen if they had 10 or 100 stores? The thought left them breathless. Nie Zhenbang calculated approximately in his mind. With over 100 suppliers combined, they had paid about 300,000 in admission fees. This was pure income for the supermarket. After deducting the annual rent, there was 270,000 left. Added to today's revenue, it was enough for Walmart supermarket to begin expanding. Subsequently, Nie Zhenbang stood up and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, factory representatives, I'd suggest you return home and ramp up production after today's celebration. Soon, we will be opening new supermarkets in West City, Dongcheng, Baikeng and Nanchang. The business area of each will be no less than our current supermarket. To show our appreciation and trust, the entry fee will be halved for those interested. All other terms remain the same, with monthly settlements. What do you think?" The first supermarket had just opened and was planning to expand fourfold. Everyone was taken aback by the rapid development speed of Walmart supermarket. Chapter 24 The Storm is Coming. Walmart supermarket, since it was opened a month ago, has an average turnover of more than 300 yuan. This news greatly stimulated all suppliers. This new business model soon became popular in Jingcheng. At the end of the month, Nie Zhenbang paid up without any arrears, which was very refreshing for the suppliers. At this time, the last thing Walmart supermarket lacked was cash flow. To cut off Walmart supermarket's follow-up supply for this small amount of money was not something Nie Zhenbang would do. "Zhenbang, things are not going well. A supermarket named Fu Family has just opened less than 500 meters away from ours. The business area is not small, it has tens of thousands of square meters, and I've found out who the boss behind the scenes is. It's Zhou Chen. It seems this kid is bent on competing against us." Yang Onbong rushed in, with the opening of the Fu Family supermarket. Walmart supermarket's turnover has also decreased a lot. Although it only decreased by a few tens of thousands of yuan, it was enough to make Yang Onbong feel anxious. Aside, Nie Zhenbang, who had come to learn, raised his eyebrows on hearing it was Zhou Chen. This guy must be itching for a fight. How dare he compete with us? "Zhenbang, I'll immediately call someone and smash his store." "Zhenbang, what on earth are you yelling about? You think you are the only big boss in the city. If you can smash it, can't Zhou Chen smash it too? His supermarket has just opened. But our business is booming. Those who have nothing to lose are not afraid of those who do. If it comes to the worst, we can quit altogether," reasoned Xiao Yali, who had matured a lot compared with before through a few months of training. However, Nie Zhenbang laughed. Yang Onbong at this moment was not as composed as he was in his previous life, and his cultivation was not yet at the point where he could remain unfazed when faced with a formidable crisis. "Zhou Chen." At this moment, Nie Zhenbang seemed very relaxed. "Brother, Zhenbang. Don't worry. If others want to open, can we stop them? Competition promotes development. As the first supermarket, we can't stop others from imitating. We can only solve the problem by ourselves. Since he wants to imitate, let him always eat our dust. Check out this membership card plan, what do you think?" With that, Nie Zhenbang handed his newly devised membership card plan to Yang Onbong. After reading the entire membership card plan, Yang Onbong also laughed with joy. "Zhenbang, I was wondering why you were so calm. Turns out you have an ace up your sleeve. Once this membership card is launched, and the points plan is implemented, these customers will become loyal customers of our supermarket and it would be impossible for others to take them away. Nie Zhenbang also laughed at this moment, and then said, imitation is just a basic thought. What we at Walmart want to do is to stay at the forefront of the industry. Brother, we alone are not enough. Jingcheng is only so big, and there are only 5 supermarkets now. 4 have not even opened yet, and we are already busy. If we expand to the whole north, and even the whole country, aren't we going to be stretched too thin? Proactive involvement is a good habit. However, cultivating our own talent is what we need to do. To compete with Walmart in the United States and Carrefour in France, we should step up our talents reserve now. After this period of training, Yang Onbong's talent in business has also gradually emerged. With the success of his business, Yang Onbong's position in the Yang family has also gradually improved. Elder Yang has already stopped interfering in Yang Onbong's affairs. For Yang Onbong, this was undoubtedly liberating his hands and feet. Zhenbang, are we just going to let that Zhou Chen's supermarket be? Yang Onbong still couldn't quite accept it. Zhou Chen was nothing notable, and the Zhou family was just a slightly above average family in Jingcheng, a notch below the Yang family, and even more inferior to the Nie family. Such behavior was tantamount to a slap in his face. Yang Onbong couldn't swallow this. Fu Family Supermarket, the name itself indicated Zhou Chen's intention, it was purely to challenge him. The business place of Fu Family Supermarket used to be Zhongcheng District Materials Bureau's warehouse of 3 layers. Each layer had a nearly 10,000 square meter area. Even Nie Zhenbang was quite enamored of this location. Hee, second brother, don't be in such a hurry. Opening a supermarket is not just about doing business, especially at such a sensitive time. Zhou Chen is just doing this out of spite, don't worry, that place will eventually be ours. Nie Zhenbang laughed confidently. With the simultaneous opening of the other 4 Walmart supermarkets in Jingcheng, the implementation of the membership card plan immediately captured the consumption mindset of the public. The daily turnover of the 5 supermarkets totaled to an astonishing 1.3 million yuan. This was a veritable money printing machine. At the end of this year, in various meetings, the head of state gave speeches on opposing bourgeois liberalization, and sharply criticized this type of behavior. At the same time, conservatives at home also started to attack the policy of reform and opening up for this reason. For a time, the atmosphere in the whole country became tense. From municipal to provincial departments, confrontations between conservatives and reformers were seen everywhere. This atmosphere in the central government became even more intense. Both conservatives and reformists attacked each other. Various circle meetings were secretly taking place. Meishong Park. The residence of the leader is located here. At this moment, in the study of the leader in Meishong Park, several bigwigs from the central government sat solemnly. Elder Yang looked at the slightly solemn expression of the leader. He was a bit nervous. As early as November, the old master of the Yi family passed away. Yi Lao, as a reformist force, his departure was a significant blow to the reformists. At this time, if the conservatives mobilized the army, the entire nation would be in turmoil. Elder Yang couldn't help but worry. Leader, the National Party Congress is about to convene soon, our comrade Zhao is about to step down. The conservatives mean business this time. Comrade Zuri is very ambitious. It seems like he is determined to take the position, Elder Yang expressed his concerns. Several central bigwigs nodded their heads in agreement at the side, their gazes all turned to the leader. As the leader of the army, and the promoter of the nation's reform and opening policies, the leader's decision was the decision of the reformists. This was undeniable. At this moment, the leader shook his head slightly, his modest height radiating a sense of confidence. He emphasized in his unique accent, the military does not interfere in politics. This is the iron law of our party, whether it is me or old Nie, we still have this awareness. The country's stability cannot change at this time. The international situation is very complex. Since the conservatives are so steadfast, I think we can take things slow. This position, we can let go. We should still push for reform, and continue opening up. The leader's words were very clear. Since the conservatives wanted the highest leadership position in the party so desperately, let them compete for it. As long as the nation is stable, the reformists will continue doing what they ought to do. There is no change in that. With the arrival of the new year, Comrade Zhao Hua officially stepped down from his highest leadership position in the party. At the same time, the conservatives operated at full strength. Comrade Zhi was officially elected as the highest leader of the party. Just when the conservatives were celebrating, within the Zhou family, the atmosphere was heavy. As the neutral party, the Zhou family always adopted a non-biased policy. Under such circumstances, both the conservatives and reformists wanted to win the Zhou family over. The Zhou family felt like a fish in water. However, during this critical moment, Zhou Chen, the eldest grandson of the Zhou family, decided to open a supermarket. This was a typical reformist move. With the victory of the conservatives, the Zhou family faced unprecedented pressure. Old Master Zhou was also mobilized into action. Kneel. With a roar from Old Master Zhou, Zhou Chen quickly kneeled down. Old Master Zhou, like Zhou Chen, was originally a political worker, but later transferred to local government. Over the years, they have become a deeply rooted family in local government. However, Old Master Zhou had a fiery temper. Zhou Chen looked at his grandfather, then turned his gaze to his parents and respectfully knelt down. At this moment, even Zhou Chen's parents wouldn't dare to irk the old man. Ignorant and arrogant thing. Following suit and opening a supermarket. What does money count for? In front of power, all money is a paper tiger. I give you 10 days to close this damn supermarket. It's not your turn to call the shots at the Zhou family. After closing, you go to the grassroots level in Chunan for training. If you don't do well, you do not come back. Old Master Zhou roared angrily. At this point, under the pressure of the conservatives, the old man could only show the Zhou family's attitude in this way. Chapter 25 Walmart Department Store. Ha ha ha, Zhenbang, this time, it seems like we're going to get a great bargain. Yang Onbong's hearty laughter could be heard even before he entered the room. Upon hearing this, a slight smile crept onto Nie Zhenbang's face. Indeed, there's something to be said for being naturally talented. Although Yang Onbong hadn't reached his later maturity yet, at this point, he already displayed a certain knack for business. The circle of Jingcheng is just so big. Zhou Chen got a scolding from the patriarch of the Zhou family, was sent down to Chunan province for a grassroots experience, and the news of his supermarket's closure within 10 days was no longer a novelty among the inner circle. Yet Yang Onbong quickly saw that Walmart supermarket would acquire an existing supermarket. His foresight was indeed commendable. Upon seeing Yang Onbong enter, Nie Zhenbang grinned, but deliberately evaluated. Second brother, it's a bargain, indeed. But how should we handle this supermarket situation? Are we going to run 2 supermarkets? It would be redundant for us and not conducive to resource utilization. Nie Zhenbang smiled at Yang Onbong. Truly, he had the prowess of a future strongman and invisible red commercial tycoon. At present, in Jingcheng, with the exception of the 4 supermarkets currently under construction, having 2 supermarkets in such close proximity was clearly inappropriate, and Nie Zhenbang could see that because he had the memories of his future self. But the fact that Yang Onbong could see it too showed his extraordinary vision. At once, Nie Zhenbang chuckled. Second brother, it's still too early to discuss these matters. However, it turns out, we must take over this place. If others do, we'll get another competitor, which is not something I wish to see. We need to think long-term about this issue. Neither of us can be involved in negotiating this. Otherwise, given Zhou Chen's character, he would rather go bankrupt than give us an easy break. How about I leave this matter to you? As Nie Zhenbang spoke, his intention to challenge Yang Onbong was clear. Although Yang Onbong had already proven his talents, there was a sense of hurrying things along in this life. As the brand expands, Walmart supermarkets' growth will only accelerate. And as the future helm of Walmart, Yang Onbong's development is equally important. Hearing Nie Zhenbang's words, Yang Onbong readily agreed with a smile. Of course, you can count on me. I'll arrange this. I assure you, Zhou Chen will willingly transfer his supermarket to us. These princes of Jingcheng were all haughty, each with an attitude that he was the best in the world. Though there were some small factions, these were mostly in line with family alliances. Each person had their own connections, which was no longer a secret. Capital Restaurant, Tan Family Hall. At that moment, in the most luxurious private room of the Tan family hall, furnished in an antique style, aside from the dining area there was also a high-grade karaoke system behind a screen. Xiao Yali and Yang Onbong had enjoyed an increasingly harmonious relationship since they started a supermarket business together. Although Xiao Yali still displayed her easygoing, forthright demeanor, a hint of gentleness could be seen in her interactions with Yang Onbong. The door to the private room opened, and Zhou Chen walked in wearing a black woolen coat. Complemented by his tall stature, he did indeed cut a somewhat imposing figure. Unlike the previous generation, the former group of stubborn figures, they valued wearing military uniforms. The khaki woolen military coat, straight and rigid, symbolized their father's authority and status. Regardless of their struggle, Yang Onbong's generation prized obtaining the military coat. Now, with a cassette tape player over their shoulders, wearing bell-bottomed jeans and sailor shirts, Zhou Chen's attire was somewhat unique. Hee, who do we have here? It's Yang's second brother. Has your supermarket business been stolen, hence the need for negotiation? Zhou Chen maintained his usual swagger. His pride could be injured, and his blood could spill, but he couldn't lose face. The obstinate figures of Jingcheng all held face in high regard. Before Yang Onbong could speak, Xiao Yali scoffed on the side and derisively said, "You think you're up to it? Humph." In fact, Zhou Chen had noticed Xiao Yali early on but deliberately ignored her. As the second daughter of the Xiao family, she had a reputation in Jingcheng. Although men generally adhered to the rule of not crying over a fight, girls were different. Coupled with her exceptionally fierce grandfather, Xiao Yali became a notable figure in Jingcheng. "Why did you bring this girl along?" Zhou Chen muttered to himself, then laughed. "Yo, who do we have here?" "It's Xiao's second sister, What, did you come here to plead for your illegitimate cousin?" Seeing Xiao Yali about to blow up, Yang Onbong quickly stopped her and then said, "Zhou Chen, let's cut the small talk. We were never friends, to begin with, so let's get straight to the point." Very straightforwardly, Yang Onbong looked at Zhou Chen and continued, "Your supermarket may not necessarily be able to compete with us. But in this day and age, making a profit is certainly possible. It's a pity your grandfather won't allow it, and now you've been exiled too. Just tell me, how much to buy your supermarket?" Zhou Chen's face was really awkward. Although his supermarket was only open for less than half a month, there was definitely a certain amount of business. With goods that were slightly cheaper than Walmart, they'd gained a sizable market share. If they proceeded, making money is a given. Initially, Zhou Chen was somewhat defiant, but now he's out of steam. But the best-laid plans of mice and men often go awry. His grandfather was angry, and the supermarket would have to close. It was inevitable. Looking at Yang Onbong, Zhou Chen snorted, "Yang Onbong, do you think I would let you take over my supermarket?" Yang Onbong, however, had subtly sat down now, smiling, and said, "Since you're here, let's sit down and have a drink. Can I give you a detailed analysis?" Seeing Zhou Chen sit down, Yang Onbong continued, "The country is currently divided into 3 sections, conservative, neutral, and reformist. Your Zhou family represents the neutral faction. If you quit, neither the neutral nor the conservative factions will dare to take over. And in the reformist faction, do you think anyone would dare to take it without my say-so?" Seeing Zhou Chen's expression shift, Yang Onbong felt a bit of stealthy glee and continued, "If you think I'm not qualified, what would you say if Nie Zhenbang and Yali join me? Don't tell me about closing down or selling to other businessmen. Whatever you dare to sell, I'll dare to take over. As for closing down, that's even easier. If you close it today, I'll take it over tomorrow. The most I would have to do is refit it. Think about it carefully. 100,000 is extra, for you. I'll take over all the goods and debts from your supermarket." The earnings from a supermarket, Zhou Chen was aware of. This price was almost equivalent to a giveaway. Although he still had hundreds of thousands of debts, at this point, no one would dare to debt collect from Yang Onbong. Despite his unwillingness, Zhou Chen was helpless. It was exactly as Yang Onbong analyzed. Under these circumstances, indeed no one would dare take over. Since he was going to leave Jingcheng for Chunan, rather than gaining nothing, it would be better to come out ahead. Considering this, Zhou Chen stood up and said, 200,000. Deal or no deal? If it's no deal, I'll simply close down. 200,000 wasn't much. Considering this, Yang Onbong also stood up, opened a check on the spot, and said, "Fine. This is a cash check from the Industrial and Commercial Bank. My people will take over tomorrow morning." Zhou Chen took over the check and stood up. "Brother Yang, I'll take my leave." As Zhou Chen left, Nie Zhenbang walked in from behind the screen, contemplating as he watched Zhou Chen leave. Couldn't underestimate them. The princes and princesses of the 49 cities, appearing careless on ordinary days. When they put their minds to something, they knew exactly how to weigh their options. Zhou Chen doing this, he'll definitely be a formidable opponent in the future. Dismissing these thoughts, Nie Zhenbang laughed and sat down, jokingly as he looked at the couple, sister and brother-in-law. "Cheers to your victory." Xiao Yali glared at him, a hint of shyness appearing on her face. "Zhenbang, what are you saying? Nothing good ever comes out of a dog's mouth. Quick, tell me what you're going to do with this supermarket." Nie Zhenbang laughed. 3 floors of business area, and an existing structural frame. "It's a fine building. Here, we'll make this the first Walmart department store. Looks like we'll be working hard for a bit." One sentence left them both startled. A department store. Were there few department stores, big and small, in Jingcheng? Why start this kind of business? Neither could understand. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 26 Commercial Aircraft Carrier. In Nie Zhenbang's view, the department stores of this era were merely in their infancy. They can't be compared with the super and large-scale department stores of the future, let alone those gigantic department stores with hundreds of thousands to millions of square meters of retail space. Seeing the puzzled expressions on Yang Onbong and Xiao Yali's faces, Nie Zhenbang felt a sense of enlightening them. He explained, "These are not real department stores. In my vision, our department store should not only carry clothes, shoes, hats, toys, and the like. It ought to be a comprehensive shopping mall that combines clothing, food, shelter, and transportation. Moreover, our department store should differentiate itself from the prevalent mass market malls. We need to aim for an upscale route." It was a new term. Xiao Yali was confused, but Yang Onbong seemed thoughtful. Nie Zhenbang sighed silently. Yang Onbong's talent was genuine and not just built on background and boasting. He was a talented man indeed. Walking the high-end route. Wasn't that advocating a bourgeois, decadent lifestyle? This made Yang Onbong hesitant. Despite the Yang family being a driving force of reform, taking such a big step made Yang Onbong somewhat uneasy. He then asked, "Zhenbang, I understand the high-end route. It's about selling the most expensive products. But won't this be suspected of being bourgeois? And also, does Jingcheng have the purchasing power for it?" Nie Zhenbang laughed. Though the era of reform and opening up had just started a few years ago, places like Jingcheng and Hucheng were undoubtedly affluent. Especially Jingcheng, the center of national power, where the highest income earners were mostly based in this era. If Jingcheng did not have purchasing power, nowhere else could. As for the bourgeois lifestyle, in its current form, it might be considered audacious. However, this has nothing to do with the marketplace. Instead, Nie Zhenbang planned to use this for publicity. Laughing lightly, Nie Zhenbang reassured him, "Second brother, I understand your concerns. But rest assured, there's absolutely no problem." The next day, Zhou Chen quickly turned over the site to Yang Onbong. Meanwhile, Yang Onbong immediately instructed his staff to start the move. Everything from the supermarket was transferred to other Walmart outlets. The various distributors expressed no dissatisfaction. On the contrary, they were thrilled at the opportunity to enter Walmart's market. However, when they actually started operating as a department store, Nie Zhenbang realized how challenging it was to set up an upscale, large-scale department store in these times. Clothing. At this time, China had no mature brand awareness, let alone advertising. Appliances. In this era dominated by black and white televisions, all appliances were considered luxury items. Cosmetics. The market had not even been cultivated yet, the trend was still snow cream. If they were genuinely to open such a department store, they would need to import over 80% of their goods from abroad. This would be a significant challenge. Nie Zhenbang shook his head at this thought. It appeared that Yang Onbong and Xiao Yali would have to step in again. It was clear that it was too late to make direct contact with the manufacturers. Besides, in this era of undeveloped communication and the absence of internet, it was not as easy as in the future when you could search anything online instantly. For example, top-tier global brands like Versace or Chanel likely wouldn't even have contact numbers available in China's Ministry of Foreign Trade. The only option was to inquire through their embassies. Finding one company after another was not a big issue. However, a department store would require at least hundreds or even more brands. At this moment, Nie Zhenbang already had a plan in mind. Second brother, second sister, Jamin, take a look. This is an investment planning proposal I wrote. Read it carefully and let me know if you have any suggestions, Nie Zhenbang said as he tossed his completed proposal onto the table in the office at Walmart. Seeing the surprise on the faces of Yang Onbong and the others after they finished reading, Yang Onbong slapped his thigh and stood up. Good, very good. All the world's top luxury brands are moving in. Zippo, Rolex, Versace, Chanel. This is really a great move, Zhenbang. These things are rare in China. If we introduce them here, all the owners in this capital might go crazy. At this time, these brands might not be familiar to the common people, but they were to the people within the circle of the capital. Many of the older people in their families, like the Nies and the Yangs, often traveled abroad. It was normal for them to bring something back. There's no discussion needed. Zhenbang, I'll take care of this. My uncle works in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I'll ask him to contact the commercial counselors of each embassy. Yang Onbong immediately took over the task of contacting each brand's home country. Xiao Yali also stood up, smiling as she said, then I will contact the Ministry of Foreign Trade. My uncle is there. If they send out the invitations, I believe these brands would be interested in coming. Seeing the two of them leave eagerly, Nie Jamin looked worried. He said to Nie Zhenbang, Zhenbang, are we taking on too much? Will Elder Nie get angry? At this, Nie Zhenbang smiled. Elder Nie had already expressed his displeasure. At this point, he probably wasn't interested. Ever since he entered the Nie family, an article had made the family the target of suspicion by conservatives. Then the Nie brothers were both sent to Yudong together. They wouldn't have gone to Yudong without Elder Nie's permission. Then came the opening of the supermarket, the visit to the Yang family. All these steps had gradually pushed the Nie family to the fringes of the Conservative Party. In his previous life, after Comrade Zuri took office, Elder Nie had to resign from his important position. But this time, there was no change in the military commission. This meant there must have been some contact between Elder Nie and the head of state. Elder Nie's attitude had also changed. The coming business negotiation meeting was just another opportunity to further the reform agenda. With this in mind, Nie Zhenbang patted Nie Jamin's shoulder and said, Jamin, don't worry. The Nie family is now part of the reform faction. Just as Nie Zhenbang had said, Elder Nie did not react when Yang Onbong and Xiao Yali made their move. It was as if he didn't know at all, and was focusing on the army, working on military modernization. The business negotiation meeting was a great success. After Yang Onbong reported the plan to Elder Yang, he immediately reported it to the head of state. With the support of the head of state, all government ministries offered full support. Quickly, a large business delegation from all over the world gathered in Jingcheng. The delegation visited the special reform zone in Yudong and Hucheng's development under the personal guidance of the head of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Ministry of Foreign Trade. They also inspected the business environment in Jingcheng, evaluated the 5 Walmart stores, and conducted on-site investigations of Walmart department store. After that, many brands signed agreements to move into the Walmart department store. After the business negotiation meeting, the once empty Walmart department store became lively. Renovation teams from world-renowned brands also moved in. Second brother, good job. With this start, things will be much easier from now on. We thank you for putting so much effort into the supermarket and department store. After the new year, you will be busy. Standing at the renovation site of the Walmart department store, Nie Zhenbang felt quite emotional. He had lived a disappointing life previously, but this time, his hard work had paid off. The Nie family had also managed to survive the first catastrophe thanks to his efforts. However, Comrade Zuri taking office would be a huge challenge for the Nie family. Whether they could overcome this hurdle would become clear in 2 years. Yang Onbong didn't notice Nie Zhenbang's unusual mood. Yang Onbong's talents in business were fully revealed. According to the plan, after the new year, Walmart supermarket would open at least 15 stores in Hucheng, Yudong, and several developed cities and provincial capitals along the coast. This was a new challenge, but Yang Onbong was full of confidence, smiling as he said, "Tomorrow will be the 30th. You go to the airport to pick up Uncle Nie. After the new year, you should go to Yudong. I'll leave that to you." Chapter 27 Celebrating the New Year. On the 28th of January, the New Year's Eve according to the lunar calendar, Nie Zhenbang and Nie Ziyu are waiting on the tarmac at the Jingcheng City Airport. With Elder Nie's dedicated car available, their journey was naturally unimpeded. Standing nearby were Elder Nie's bodyguard Xiao Yang and driver Xiao Zhang. Nie Guowei did not bring Nie Ziyu with him when he went to Yudong for his new appointment. However, after this winter vacation, Nie Ziyu is likely to follow him there. Without any restrictions, the relationship between Nie Ziyu and Nie Zhenbang was growing increasingly intimate. At this moment, Nie Ziyu, wrapped tightly in her cotton-padded jacket, clung to Nie Zhenbang's arm and looked at the sky filled with airplanes, complaining in a sweet voice, "Brother Zhenbang, why haven't Mom and Dad arrived yet? I'm freezing." Nie Zhenbang looked at Nie Ziyu and affectionately stroked her head, which immediately caused disagreement from Nie Ziyu. She complained, "Brother, don't mess my hair." Nie Zhenbang couldn't help but laugh too. In their previous life, the relationship between the two siblings wasn't very harmonious. However, after their parents' demise, Nie Ziyu began to show concern for Nie Zhenbang despite her cold demeanor. Thinking of Nie Ziyu's sacrifice of her happiness for the Nie family, Nie Zhenbang felt guilty and made a secret vow to make her life carefree in this lifetime. "Third young master, the plane has arrived," reminded driver Xiao Zhang quietly. Despite not being a working secretary, Xiao Zhang, as Elder Nie's driver, held a good rank. There wouldn't be a problem if he called Zhenbang by his name, given he was just a child. However, the clever Xiao Zhang treated Nie Zhenbang respectfully regardless of his identity, and was thorough in all his duties. As the plane gradually descended and the gangway was put in place, Nie Guowei and Yi Shushan appeared among the crowd. Many passers-by cast their eyes on the large red flag next to the plane. Upon seeing Nie Guowei and Yi Shushan, Nie Ziyu rushed towards them, exclaiming loudly, "Daddy, Mommy. Ziyu missed you a lot." Nie Guowei's complexion seemed much better compared to a month ago. In Jingcheng, the hub of political decisions, Nie Guowei always remained careful. However, since being assigned to Yudong and with the Yi family connections, Nie Guowei was thriving in Ui City. He had successfully shed the acting title and became an official standing member of the Ui City Committee, deputy secretary and mayor of the city's people's government. Haha, Ziyu has grown taller and even more beautiful just after a month, Nie Guowei laughed heartily as he picked up Nie Ziyu. Nie Zhenbang also came forward, begrudgingly addressing the couple, "Dad, Auntie." No matter how things change, Nie Zhenbang stubbornly believed that he has only one mother. No matter how good Yi Shushan is, what he can do is to repay her through other means, but he can't possibly call her mother. Contrary to expectations, Yi Shushan wasn't unhappy at all. Instead, she was smiling and nodding her head. She then addressed Nie Zhenbang, "Zhenbang, you've been working hard lately." When the family arrived home, Huang Chiume and Huang Yurong had prepared to meet them. Elder Nie was not present as he had gone to visit the troops on New Year's Eve, and Nie Guodong was currently at the Yuezhou military region. As it was the largest military region in the south, it was clear to everyone that Nie Guodong wouldn't be able to return home this year. "Shushan, you're back. Come in quickly. The weather in Jingcheng is nothing compared to Yudong. Catching a cold isn't a good thing," Huang Yurong said enthusiastically. The Huang and Yi families both belonged to the reformist faction, which made the relation between the sisters-in-law much more cooperative. Their families were reformists while their in-laws' families were conservatives. The two ladies faced many hardships some time ago. But the family atmosphere has lightened up recently due to Nie Zhenbang's efforts, which has also improved the relationship between Huang Yurong and Yi Shushan. Yi Shushan was stunned by Huang Yurong's attitude. In the past, Huang Yurong wasn't that easy to talk to. Was it because she was a reformist? Yi Shushan didn't think so. Looking thoughtfully at Nie Zhenbang beside her, she felt a wave of emotion. After a harmonious Chinese New Year dinner as a family, Nie Zhenbang and Nie Zhenbang naturally gathered together. In Nie Zhenbang's room, there was a coffee table with a few dishes of peanuts and some cold dishes. Next to it was grandfather's special Maotai wine. At this time, Nie Zhenbang also walked in from outside. Looking at the two of them, a slight smile appeared on Nie Zhenbang's face. "What, you two brothers hiding to drink and leaving your elder brother behind?" Ever since that article, Nie Zhenbang, although he only topped a name, has also gained considerable benefits. Today, his regular treatment has been resolved. In the second half of next year, there is hope to move forward again and rise to the deputy level. Even Nie Zhenbang himself was excited. A 23-year-old deputy, there was only one in the whole country. However, as an office staff of grandfather Huang, Nie Zhenbang heard the most about Nie Zhenbang and Nie Zhenbang. Basically, Nie Zhenbang knew everything that the two brothers did from his grandfather. In just 3 months, they had built a business with tens of millions of assets from scratch. This ability was highly praised by his grandfather. Consequently, Nie Zhenbang's thinking and perspective changed, which was why he sought them out. "Elder brother, I can't agree with that. Zhenbang, bring a stool over for our big brother. Let's drink together." Nie Zhenbang immediately laughed and spoke. Nie Zhenbang was not polite. After filling his cup full, he raised it towards Nie Zhenbang. "Zhenbang, this cup of wine, I would like to thank you for it." Hearing these words, Nie Zhenbang gave a faint smile. He clearly understood Nie Zhenbang's intentions. Although everyone knew that the article wasn't written by Nie Zhenbang, it was ultimately published in his name. Nie Zhenbang had received the maximum benefit. With this sentence, Nie Zhenbang was not only expressing thanks, but also recognizing Nie Zhenbang's authority. Nie Zhenbang also lifted his cup in return. "Big brother, we both share the Nie surname." Upon hearing this, Nie Zhenbang paused for a moment before bursting into laughter. He nodded vehemently. "Correct, we both are Nies." Nie Zhenbang then smiled. "Zhenbang, I respect your analytical and insightful abilities. Do you think there will be any policy changes in our country after Comrade Zuri takes office?" Was this question from Nie Zhenbang himself? Or was it from his uncle or grandfather? Nie Zhenbang started to ponder. Nie Zhenbang wouldn't have asked about Comrade Zuri's inauguration if it were up to Comrade Nan Xuan or Vice Premier Huang. If there were any need for information, the grandfather himself would have asked. His uncle, the capable one of the Nie family, wouldn't have needed to worry after his posting at the Uezhou military region. His ideas would have broadened. So it had to be Nie Zhenbang's own curiosity. Having thought this, Nie Zhenbang laughed. "Elder brother, there will definitely be changes. Comrade Zuri tends to be conservative. However, I believe that the overall policy of our country won't change. The path of reforms and opening up is the principle and policy established years ago. It is not something anyone can change. Our party represents the fundamental interests of the masses, the progressive productivity, and the forward direction of the culture." Before he knew it, Nie Zhenbang was quoting the "three represents" political theory from the future. Nie Zhenbang was slightly moved by the succinct summary. This brother of his was no ordinary person. After Nie Zhenbang finished speaking, he paused, wondering why he was repeating the future leader's words. Quickly changing the topic, he said, "Elder brother, take our Walmart for instance. Why have we been able to expand so rapidly in just a few months? Is it because of our background? The money is in the pocket of the people, and no matter how privileged we are, we can't rob them. Can we? This shows that the majority of the people have the need and the desire for reform. Given these prerequisites, what's there to worry about?" Just then, a voice came from outside. Nie Zhenbang's voice cried out, "Grandpa, Happy New Year." On hearing this, the three brothers stood up in unison. Grandfather was home. Chapter 28 Ancestral Grandchild Dialogue. As the head of the Nie family, the grandfather's authority within the family was naturally unquestionable. The three brothers followed him out. In terms of order, Nie Zhenbang was at the very front while Nie Zhenbang deliberately fell to the back. Even though they were at home, Nie Zhenbang paid close attention to such details. Although it is just a simple routine of walking, it embodied not a few hidden implications. In Chinese officialdom, seating and order of entry are given much consideration. According to traditional custom, the middle is considered the most prestigious, followed by the left side at the same distance. Of course, this varied throughout ancient China, with each dynasty holding different norms. During the Qin and Han dynasties, the right side was considered the most prestigious. After the Wei and Jin dynasty, extending all the way to the Tang and Yuan dynasties, the left side was considered prestigious. After the founding of the People's Republic, the tradition of giving precedence to the left side was also continued. When walking, it's usually most appropriate to stay half a step behind. The old man had just sat down on the sofa when little Nie Zhenbang clung to him. As the only granddaughter in the Nie family, Nie Zhenbang occupied a somewhat special existence. The treasure of the family. The princess at home. Moreover, the old man had absolutely no expectations from Nie Zhenbang. Conversely, he was quite strict with the Nie brothers. Happy New Year, grandfather. Following Nie Zhenbang and Nie Zhenbang, Nie Zhenbang also spoke out. Starting with Nie Zhenbang, elder Nie's gaze swept over each of them, finally landing on Nie Zhenbang. Looking at this grandson who had suddenly appeared, elder Nie's face was notably serious with no detectable signs of emotion. For a while, the atmosphere in the room had become somewhat heavy. Seeing this, the old lady, Huang Qiume, immediately stood up. "What are you doing, old man? Come on, we've been waiting for you, the things for the ancestral worship are ready. Let's get started quickly, or else New Year's Eve will be over." As for Nie Zhenbang, the old lady's thoughts were quite simple. Regardless of the circumstances, regardless of who the father might be, he was still her grandson after all. As the saying goes, the emperor loves his eldest son, the common people love their youngest. But this did not apply to the old lady. Had she not been excessively indulgent, Nie Guowei would not have done such absurd things back in the day. Love for the son extends to his offspring. As the son of the youngest son, and the youngest grandchild of the third generation, the old lady was indeed very kind to Nie Zhenbang. In the center of the living room, an 8 immortals table had already been set up. In front of it, the names of the Nie family's ancestors were arrayed. With incense and candles lit, various offerings were laid out. The old man stood in front of the table and respectfully knelt down. After giving 3 bows, he stood up, walked to the side, and watched as his children and grandchildren each paid their respects to the ancestors. After Yi Shushan finished her bows, only Nie Zhenbang and Nie Zhenbang were left. The atmosphere grew awkward for a moment. "Zhenbang, pay your respects properly. This is your first Chinese New Year with the Nie family. Show some reverence." The old man suddenly spoke up. These words took everyone aback. Aunt Huang Yurong was a little surprised. The look she gave Nie Zhenbang had also changed slightly. Before, Huang Yurong did not consider Nie Zhenbang as significant. Even in her heart, she did not consider him a member of the Nie family. However, the old man's words today carried clear implications. Because he was admitting that Nie Zhenbang was a descendant of the Nie family. This was not a small shift. Although Nie Zhenbang had undergone a ceremony when he returned, in his previous life, Nie Zhenbang had never participated in the family's ancestral worship. But this time, the old man was explicitly letting Nie Zhenbang participate. Off to the side, Nie Zhenbang's face was a mix of emotions. From his adopted younger brother, Nie Zhenbang had gained numerous benefits. It was Nie Zhenbang who enabled him to become a rank holder at the age of 21, with every possibility of being a deputy director by 23. However, there were also conflicts within the large family. Each generation could only have one core around which all the family's resources and manpower were centered. As the saying goes, without rules, there can be no circles and squares. Suppose there wasn't a core. Suppose everyone did their own thing, and suppose there were divergent political opinions. What then? Fall apart. That would only lead to self-destruction. If so, the Nie family would be replaced by other families in Jingcheng within 3 years. That was the harsh reality. At present, in the second generation of the Nie family, Nie Guodong had a slight upper hand. Nie Zhenbang, of course, did not want to lose his place as the heir of the third generation. On the other hand, Yi Shushan's expressions were the most complex at this moment. It was the son she had supposedly adopted. Other families in Jingcheng also took in kids, but those kids were usually adopted when they were young. Meanwhile, Nie Zhenbang was already grown up when he joined the Nie family. This difference meant that she needed to spend more time and effort, and showed genuine care to gain Nie Zhenbang's acceptance. Would it lead to mutually assured destruction? Would it create an irreconcilable situation? Maybe, before Nie Zhenbang was accepted by Elder Nie, such things might have been possible. But now, since Elder Nie had accepted him, any fuss she might create would be pure folly. At this thought, Yi Shushan's attitude began to subtly shift. Nie Zhenbang was keenly observing these changes. He, too, was excited at the moment since he had never experienced ancestor worship before. Looking at the situation now, it was clear that his every move had had a significant impact. No matter what, he had changed a lot. What made Nie Zhenbang even happier was that from now on, his actions would garner further support. It would give him an even better chance to change the Nie family's fate. Subsequently, Nie Zhenbang respectfully approached the altar, just like Nie Zhelai and Nie Zhenbang, lit 3 incenses, bowed 3 times, and with a serious expression, inserted the incense into the incense burner. After Nie Ziu completed the ancestral worship, Elder Nie glanced at his sons and grandsons, then turned his gaze to Nie Zhenbang and said, "Zhenbang, come to the study with me." Without showing any concern for the surprise on everyone else's faces, Elder Nie walked towards his study. Although Nie Zhenbang had spent nearly a decade living here across 2 lifetimes, he had never been privileged enough to enter the old man's study. The entire study exuded an antique character. There was a row of bookcases made of yellow pear wood, which gave Nie Zhenbang a feeling of extravagant wastage. Yellow pear wood is stable and not prone to warping. Its value is second only to premier woods like zeton. It is generally used for making objects with odd shapes. But in Elder Nie's study, even the bookcases were made of yellow pear wood. A huge desk, made from a single piece of redwood, which was at least 200 years old. This was another priceless object. Stop looking, these are just material things, national property. I am only one of their many users throughout the course of history. If you all could make me proud, then perhaps the Nie family could still get the privilege to sit here. Elder Nie's words were plain, but they radiated a sense of melancholy. The mediocrity of the 2nd and 3rd generations of the Nie family was undeniable. Now, Nie Zhenbang could somewhat understand the choices his grandfather had made in the past. When the descendants were not making good on their potential, Elder Nie had chosen a risky path. The conservative faction was not strong. As the second in command of the military commission, Elder Nie's support was instrumental. In contrast, the reformists, due to their association with Comrade Nan Xuan, perhaps didn't benefit from the Nie family as conspicuously. Unfortunately, anything that goes against history and public opinion can never triumph over justice. In the end, the Nie family's fortunes declined, which was inevitable. "Grandfather, I will work hard." Nie Zhenbang nodded seriously. At this moment, Elder Nie sat down, raised his head to look at Nie Zhenbang, and said solemnly, "Zhenbang, tell me, where do you plan to take the Nie family?" Chapter 29 Creating a Glorious Huaxia 1. Seeing Nie Zhenbang still pretending to be oblivious, Elder Nie was exasperated. He jested, "You stinky boy, you think I don't know. Even though you stay behind the scenes, that Walmart supermarket you're running, and the recent high-profile international trade conference. Do you really think you can fool the people of Jingcheng? Do you think that just a few of you young ones could achieve this sort of success? If it weren't for Nanzun Chief giving you a push behind the scenes, it wouldn't take Zuri standing up, the grassroots alone could have shut your supermarket down." At this point, Elder Nie saw Nie Zhenbang's surprised expression and felt a bit of satisfaction. His own grandson was too mysterious, too mature, steady, and elegant in handling matters. All of these were positive traits. But he was too mature. Looking at him, Elder Nie felt like he wasn't looking at a young man, but rather a middle-aged man. Fortunately, Elder Nie didn't voice this out, otherwise, Nie Zhenbang would be scared out of his wits. He had actually reincarnated from middle age. If Elder Nie had said that, Nie Zhenbang definitely would have felt that his secret had been exposed. "Zhenbang, don't get priorities wrong. In our country, power rules over everything. Military and political power. These are fundamental. Without them, even if you were the richest man in the world, it would all be devoid of substance. What I mean is, you and Jamin should tread this path. Leave all the miscellaneous things behind." Elder Nie's character was once again revealed. Just a few words in, his paternalistic style made itself clear. Nie Zhenbang could swear that when it came to the things that come to pass in the future, nobody understood them better than he did. How did people like Zhou Zhengyi fare? They might have seen good times, but when they fell hard. Power. It has always reigned supreme above everything else. The Nie family, whether the second or third generation, were all quiet as a church mouse in front of Elder Nie. However, Nie Zhenbang didn't quite feel the same. He plastered a glum expression on his face and said, "Grandpa, you used to be a political commissar. We can't just have autocracy, we must focus on democracy. How old am I? Yes, I'll go into politics. But before that, I want to build a solid economic foundation for the Nie family, for our country." Oh, that's quite the ambition. Is it based on that little supermarket of yours? Perhaps he was tired of his progeny always agreeing with him. Elder Nie showed no displeasure towards Nie Zhenbang's attitude and began teasing him. Seeing Nie Zhenbang's rebellious look, he continued to taunt, "Relying on this could indeed build an economic foundation for the Nie family, so that our descendants wouldn't commit any economic blunders. But for the country? Zhenbang, don't you think that is a bit of an exaggeration?" Nie Zhenbang nodded, then said solemnly, "Grandpa, relying solely on the supermarket is indeed not enough. Our country's foundation in various scientific researches is extremely weak, lagging far behind the world's advanced level. My target is not within the country, but northwards." As Nie Zhenbang's voice fell, Elder Nie had already stood up. The North, that elder socialist brother, the superpower that stood alongside the United States on the world stage, the Soviet Union. Was there a possibility of wresting food away from their mouths? With a keen look, Elder Nie studied Nie Zhenbang. After a while, he finally said, "I should have guessed it." Zhiliang, with his cautious and deliberate personality but lacking boldness, couldn't have penned that predictive piece on the Soviet Union. "I thought it was the work of Nanzun chief and old Huang. I didn't expect it to be yours. It seems you've been planning this since then." At this point, Elder Nie was somewhat concerned. What sort of grandson was this? He had manipulated strings, so much so that he had gotten him and the senior officials at the center involved. Nie Zhenbang nodded. Politicians of the older generation weren't blowing hot air. With just a bit of information, they made accurate deductions. Nie Zhenbang genuinely admired Elder Nie's skill. The old really are crafty. Suddenly, Nie Zhenbang continued, "Grandpa, you have access to information about the Soviet Union. Since the death of Comrade Chernenko, Gorbachev has taken his place. The political landscape of the Soviet Union is starting to highlight contradictions and problems. The enterprise autonomy reform started during Comrade Chernenko's time has met with increasing opposition. As you know, the Soviet Union focuses on heavy and military industries, but the supply of daily necessities and food is scarce. This is the biggest problem threatening the welfare of the Soviet Union at its core. I'm not exaggerating. Right now, the Soviet Union is as good as a dying camel, we're just waiting for the appearance of the last straw." Upon hearing this, Elder Nie's expression turned serious. As a proletariat revolutionary, Elder Nie had strong affections for the Soviet Union. Looking at Nie Zhenbang, he tentatively asked, "Zhenbang, are these not exaggerated words? Is there really no way to save the situation?" Nie Zhenbang shook his head, then said, "Grandpa, it's impossible now. Even God and Buddha would be helpless at this point. Take the foreign exchange market, for example. Currently, the official foreign exchange rate in the Soviet Union is $1 to 0.9 rubles. But on the black market, $1 is 90 rubles. And this gap is likely to continue to widen." Even though Elder Nie wasn't involved in economy matters, he had some understanding of it. Thus, he understood Nie Zhenbang's plan. By relying on necessities, scarce goods, and food, they could take advantage of the Soviet Union's increasingly chaotic situation to exchange for advanced heavy industrial equipment, like mother machines and advanced stamping machines, as well as advanced military research materials and weapons, such as aircraft carriers, fighter planes, and missiles. On contemplating this, Elder Nie looked at Nie Zhenbang seriously and asked, "Zhenbang, how sure are you about this?" Nie Zhenbang knew about everything that would happen in the future. He was fully aware of the enormous profits gained by domestic speculators who shuttled back and forth between China and the Soviet Union through the Siberian artery during the disintegration of the Soviet Union in the late 1980s and early 1990s. But having never operated it himself, he hesitated for a moment before saying, 80% certain. 80%. Good, when will this plan begin? I will make sure the military fully supports you. However, you must focus on national defense industry and weapons research. This would be considered significant if you accomplish it. Elder Nie, who was from a military background, made his decision without hesitation. In a war, 6 or 7 out of 10 chances of winning would be considered quite good, let alone 80%. For the older generation, national defense was always of paramount importance. Now that such an opportunity had come their way, Elder Nie would certainly not miss it. Having said that, Elder Nie looked at Nie Zhenbang again and said, Zhenbang, if you agree to this, I will leave you alone until your university graduation. In the meantime, the Nie family will fully support you. This is our agreement. Can you do it? Upon hearing this, Nie Zhenbang was ecstatic. With the old man's approval and his complete control of the operation, Nie family would surely be able to overcome any upcoming struggle. His efforts were finally being rewarded. He was caught off guard by the sudden proposal but quickly regained composure, nodded seriously, and said, Grandpa, a word once given is unalterable. Elder Nie laughed heartily at this point, ha ha ha, good, good, this is the responsibility that my Nie family's descendants should bear. To start a grand era for Huaxia, how ambitious. P.S. We are first on the urban category and 5th on the new book chart. This is our joint honor, let's witness it together. Thanks again to Brother Longxiao LLI for his donation, that's his 4th time donating. Thanks to the Brother Stone Soft Heart for his donation of 588 Kidian coins. Both of you are awesome. Here's today's second update, for all of you. Chapter 30 Layout of Yudong. After celebrating the New Year at home, on the second day of the Lunar New Year, Nie Zhenbang followed Nie Guowei onto the plane bound for Ui. Naturally, Nie Ziyu was also accompanying them. This semester, Nie Ziyu would be studying here in Ui. The transportation in this era was not as developed as it would be in the future. At the moment, the South China Sea Special Zone and Ui Special Zone were just starting. The South Sea Wangtian Airport had not even been planned yet. It would not start the formal strict project until next year, with construction beginning at the start of the following year. As for Ui Airport, it would be even later. At this point, it was just the Baiyun Airport in Yuezhou City. When the plane arrived in Yuezhou, it was already 5 in the afternoon. As soon as they stepped out of the airport exit, a few uniformed soldiers greeted them. They said to Nie Guowei, "Greetings, Chief." Nie Guowei immediately replied with a laugh, "Xiao Zhang, why are you so polite? Did your chief send you?" The group rode in the off-road military vehicle of the Yuezhou Military Region and directly entered the courtyard of the Yuezhou Military Region. By the time they reached the general building, Nie Guodong was already waiting at the entrance. Old Nie had also called, discussing something that surprised Nie Guodong. From now on, the Nie family would fully support Nie Zhenbang's business, without any reason. This forced Nie Guodong to adopt this posture. Among the Nie family's 2 brothers and 2 sisters, Nie Guowei was undoubtedly slightly less capable than the others. Although they were brothers, Nie Guodong naturally played a dominant role in their daily interactions. However, to his surprise, he had lost to the 3rd generation. Looking at Nie Zhenbang next to Nie Guowei, Nie Guodong's face showed a somewhat unnatural smile, then said, "Guowei, you came so quickly. Didn't you plan to accompany old Nie in Jingcheng longer?" Nie Guowei was rather oblivious to the underlying meaning. He laughed, old Nie has a lot of affairs to deal with. After spending one day at home, he went out. He said he was going to visit North Korea, and mother also went. There are many matters to attend to in Ui City. So, I came here. At this moment, Nie Zhenbang also brought Nie Ziyu forward. "Uncle, happy New Year. Zhenbang and Ziyu are here to wish you a good year." Nie Guodong laughed heartily, repeatedly saying, "Good, good. Come, this is the New Year's money that your uncle has for you." With that, he took out 2 red envelopes from his pocket and handed them over. The group entered the living room. Nie Guodong, being the commander, naturally did not have to prepare the food. As the family sat on the sofa, Nie Guodong began, "Zhenbang, old Nie is full of praise for you. This is good. In the future, the 3 of you brothers can work together, advancing in military, politics, and commerce. The future of the Nie family doesn't seem worrisome. Nie Zhenbang smiled slightly. Nie Guodong's words had a hidden message. Military, politics, commerce. The eldest, Nie Zhilei, was in politics. It seemed certain that Nie Zhenbang would enter the military sooner or later. So, he must be referring to himself regarding commerce. Nie Zhenbang didn't argue, instead he laughed and said, "Uncle, you flatter me. It's just an interest of mine. I came to Yudong this time to survey the market for Walmart's layout. I heard that Uncle has control over many military bases in the city, maybe you could consider transferring them over to me. In turn, you can construct new military bases in the suburbs. In this way, the confidentiality of the army would be much better than it is now." These words startled Nie Guodong. This young man was audacious to even think about the military bases. However, Nie Guodong had to admit, these bases were built a decade or several decades ago. With the continuous expansion of Yuezhou City, they were becoming somewhat unsuitable. If this problem could be solved in this way, it would indeed be a good solution. "Zhenbang, if you're interested in this, I can help you work on it. However, I can't guarantee the success of it." After saying this, Nie Guodong looked at Nie Guowei beside him and continued, "Guowei, this is the phone number of Nie Zhenbang, the commander in Yui City. Get in touch with him more when you get back." After staying with Nie Guodong for one night, Nie Guowei was picked up by people from Yui City the next day. Nie Zhenbang stayed behind by himself. This visit not only aimed to strengthen the communication and understanding with his family, but Nie Zhenbang also carried an important task. For this reason, Nie Guodong had specially arranged an upper-level officer who was familiar with Yudong to accompany him in his travels. After a few days, the situation in Yuezhou opened Nie Zhenbang's eyes. Electronics markets, clothing markets, this place, at the forefront of the reform and opening up, was filled with enormous passion. Individual operators from around the country, carrying more or less cash, would take back bags of novel products. These people would later become the first group to become wealthy in the country. At the same time, Nie Zhenbang also chose several suitable locations, the most important of which was near Jingcheng Road in Yuezhou. As a reborn individual, Nie Zhenbang knew well that Jingcheng Road would be transformed into a famous pedestrian street in Yuezhou after entering the next era. Although that hasn't happened yet, it was still a business center of Yuezhou. Establishing a Walmart in this location would bring obvious benefits for the layout of the Walmart in Yudong province. "Mr. Nie," the chief called, saying that there's some progress on the matter you discussed with him. The serviceman's surname was Zhou, a local from Yudong province who could speak fluent Mandarin and Cantonese. He was the perfect companion for Nie Zhenbang. Over the past few days, Nie Zhenbang encountered many Yudong people who could not speak Mandarin. With Xiao Zhou's help, things were much easier. To facilitate contact, Nie Guodong also specially provided Xiao Zhou with a pager. In this era, even in a big city like Yuezhou, pagers were few and far between. There's progress. Nie Zhenbang's eyes lit up. At this time, there were many military businesses across the country, especially in different major military regions, which had considerable autonomy. As the second in command of the Yuezhou military region, the matters raised by Nie Guodong wouldn't meet much resistance. At the entrance of the headquarters of the Yuezhou military region, Commander Huang, Nie Guodong, Chief of Staff Liu, and Minister Guan of the Logistics Department were all already waiting at the gate. Upon getting off the car and seeing this arrangement, Nie Zhenbang immediately quickened his steps. "Uncle Huang, all other uncles. I feel flattered that you are all waiting here for me." Hearing Nie Zhenbang's words, Commander Huang laughed and turned to Nie Guodong. "Haha, old Nie, your nephew surely knows how to speak." Then, Commander Huang turned to Nie Zhenbang and said, "Zhenbang, you are our god of wealth. We've long wanted to relocate our 2 plots in the city center, but we could not do so because neither the central government has allocated funds nor could Yudong province help. Now that you, a rich businessman, have come, we couldn't have asked for more. It is only right. Perhaps out of the intention to test the waters, this time, the Yuezhou military region had put up only 2 small bases for sale. These 2 places had a common feature: they were once the supply warehouses of the Yuezhou military region. Moreover, they were not a very large area, the largest one only covering 10 acres. But for Nie Zhenbang, this was the most suitable. He immediately signed a transfer agreement with the Yuezhou military region at a price of 300,000 per acre. The total cost of the 16 acres was only a little over 4 million, which was nothing for Walmart. 5 supermarkets and 1 department store could bring in millions of revenue for the company every day. After signing the contract, Nie Zhenbang immediately called Yang Anbang, who also began to take action on his end, sending a preliminary preparation team. At this moment, Nie Zhenbang was on his way to the South China Sea Special Zone. Check out our playlist for more amazing novels. Continue. Chapter 31 Peng City's Hai Zhe 1. South China Sea. This is the forefront of domestic economic reform and opening up. From the sound of the first dynamite fuse ignited a decade ago, to a few years ago, the South Sea National Trade Building even set a record construction speed of 1 floor every 3 days, hailed as the South China Sea Speed. By the time Nie Zhenbang arrived in the South China Sea, it was already past 8 in the evening. He parked his car at the side of the road and dialed a number given to him by his uncle Nie Guodong. As soon as the call was connected, Nie Zhenbang immediately said respectfully, "Uncle Luo. This is Nie Zhenbang. 3 years ago, following the orders of the Huasha Military Commission, more than 20,000 engineers from 2 divisions and 7 brigades were transferred to the South China Sea to support the economic construction of the South China Sea Special Zone." Uncle Luo on the other end of the phone was the commander of one of those divisions back then, holding the rank of colonel. Upon hearing Nie Zhenbang's words, a booming voice on the other end exclaimed, "Zhenbang! Your elder leader called me. Where are you now? I'll send someone to pick you up right away." The revolving restaurant at the top of the South Sea National Trade Building has become a landmark building in the South China Sea area since the building was completed. Luo Pinggan was now waiting at the side. As the CEO of the South Sea Construction Group, Luo Pinggan had been perplexed when he was transferred. His superiors cherished him, but he paid close attention when he got a phone call today. The leader's nephew was coming to the South China Sea. His leader is Elder Nie's eldest son. Isn't his nephew Guo Wei's son, Elder Nie's grandson? But Luo Pinggan was also puzzled. In his memory, he had never heard of Guo Wei having a son. Just as he was pondering, Nie Zhenbang appeared at the door of the revolving restaurant. As soon as Nie Zhenbang stepped in, he saw a middle-aged man walking towards him. The man was not tall, about 1.7 meters, and a bit chubby. When he laughed, he was very affable. Before Nie Zhenbang could say anything, the man said, "Zhenbang. I am Luo Pinggan." Nie Zhenbang also smiled slightly, extending his hand and saying, "Nice to meet you, Uncle Luo. My uncle always speaks highly of you, saying that you're his top general." Hearing this, Luo Pinggan laughed. From the moment Nie Zhenbang walked in, there was a calm smile on his face. His moves were poised and measured. This restraint, far from annoying Luo Pinggan, instead earned his respect. This was the demeanor expected of a member of a prestigious family. Expecting nothing less would feel unnatural to Luo Pinggan. Despite knowing that Nie Zhenbang was merely being polite, Luo Pinggan modestly replied, "Haha, Zhenbang, you are too kind. What general am I? Just an engineer. Not worth mentioning, not worth mentioning." The two had just sat down inside the revolving restaurant when Luo Pinggan waved a waiter over to serve the dishes. Then, turning serious, he said, "Zhenbang, the leader told me that you are here in the South China Sea planning to find a place to set up a supermarket. You've come to the right person for that. I specialize in building houses. Where there is land, I know better than anyone. Right now, there is a plot of about 70,000 square meters near this National Trade Commerce Circle. I think it's very suitable for your supermarket. What do you think?" Upon hearing this, Nie Zhenbang was taken aback, but soon laughed. Luo Pinggan's words were truthful. As an engineer, he dealt with real estate matters the most. Instead of looking aimlessly, it was more efficient to ask Luo Pinggan. But before Nie Zhenbang could speak, a voice suddenly spoke from nearby. "General Luo, I was wondering why you wouldn't give that place to me. So it turns out that you are planning to give it to this kid." The newcomer was a man in his 30s or 40s, wearing a fur coat. His hairstyle was the popular slicked back look of the time, and he was wearing a pair of sunglasses on his forehead. Although Nie Zhenbang didn't understand Cantonese, the change in Luo Pinggan's expression was not lost on him. Luo Pinggan sneaked a glance at Nie Zhenbang, then stood up and said, "Brother Hai, I'm really sorry. I have my own use for that place, I hope you can forgive me." Luo Pinggan deliberately spoke in Mandarin. This made Nie Zhenbang's impression of Luo Pinggan rise a notch. Luo Pinggan was transferred to this place in 1983, and after staying in the South China Sea for so many years, he certainly spoke fluent Cantonese. Yet at this moment, his intentional use of Mandarin indicated that he was considerate. Nie Zhenbang was a northerner and, being so young, naturally did not understand Cantonese. If Luo Pinggan had conversed in Cantonese, it might have given Nie Zhenbang the wrong idea. But, as things were, Luo Pinggan had made clear his stance to Nie Zhenbang. The person addressed as Brother Hai was taken aback for a moment. He turned his gaze to Nie Zhenbang and bowed. "Young man, you're not simple. Able to have Luo, the CEO of the South Sea Construction, as a companion. I don't know which field you're in. That place is crucial for me. I have searched all over South China Sea, and only that place suits a supermarket. Would you be willing to let me have it? And if you ever need anything in the South China Sea, just let me know." Supermarket. Nie Zhenbang was surprised. Although he knew very well that, with the continuous expansion of Walmart, there would inevitably be followers in China, he didn't expect that it would happen this fast. It seemed that the pace of expansion of Walmart needed to be sped up. Thinking about this, Nie Zhenbang gave a faint smile. "Sorry, that place is also important to me. I'm also planning to open a supermarket." As soon as Nie Zhenbang finished speaking, Brother Hai's expression changed. Brother Hai never believed in coincidences. Right now, he believed that this kid was intentionally opposing him. Brother Hai's face darkened and he turned to Luo Pinggan. "Good, very good. General Luo, it seems you do not intend to continue doing business on the land of the South China Sea." As Brother Hai finished speaking, Luo Pinggan's expression also changed. Ever since Brother Hai had entered, Nie Zhenbang had been observing Luo Pinggan's reactions. It seemed that this Brother Hai was not a small player, or Luo Pinggan would not have been so wary. At this moment, Luo Pinggan whispered in Nie Zhenbang's ear, "Zhenbang, this Brother Hai is the younger brother of Wei Wenhage, secretary of the Party District Committee of Nan'e City Port District. His name is Wei Wenhai. Because his brother Wei Wenhage is a standing member of the Municipal Party Committee and has strong backing from the Deputy Secretary of the Municipal Party Committee, in South China Sea, Wei Wenhai can be considered a local tyrant." Upon hearing this, Nie Zhenbang's expression turned grave. From both his former and current life, particularly due to the suppression experienced in his previous life, he held a deep disdain for those who abused their power to oppress others. After his rebirth, Nie Zhenbang vowed that if he encountered such people again in this life, he would not hesitate to trample them underfoot. Back in Jingcheng, he had shown his firm hand with Zhou Chen. Now, hearing Luo Pinggan's introduction, Nie Zhenbang couldn't help but smile, displaying a carefree demeanor. He played with the cup on the table and said, "Haha, it seems Brother Hai has a big temper. Let me say something too. For now, this ground is still General Luo's. If General Luo agrees, I will have no objection. But if General Luo disagrees, then I can only say I'm sorry." Caught between the two, Luo Pinggan found himself in a predicament. One side was his old leader's nephew, a direct descendant of the Nie family in Jingcheng. On the other side was a local bully of South China Sea. Offending either side was not good. But under such circumstances, having it both ways was simply impossible. Gritting his teeth, Luo Pinggan looked at Brother Hai and said firmly, "Brother Hai, I am really sorry." Chapter 32 The fight begins. Upon hearing these words, a flicker of admiration flashed through Nie Zhenbang's eyes. Not all military men are merely acquainted with warfare. Right now, it seemed that Luo Pinggan's emotional intelligence wasn't bad either. Although Nie Zhenbang wasn't a bad man, he definitely wasn't a good one either. If Luo Pinggan chose to compromise with Wei Wenhai, Nie Zhenbang wouldn't be so easily dismissed. From the looks of it now, Luo Pinggan had his own considerations. Subsequently, Nie Zhenbang looked at Wei Wenhai, shrugged his shoulders and said, "Brother Hai, I'm sorry. Since General Luo has spoken, if I were to give in to you, wouldn't that embarrass him?" As he spoke, Nie Zhenbang picked up his chopsticks, took a bite of food, tasted it, and said to Brother Hai on his side, "The food tastes pretty good indeed. Why don't you sit down and have some too, Brother Hai?" Wei Wenhai was no ordinary man. When had he ever been treated with such indifference in the South China Sea Special Zone? The Special Zone is indeed special in certain respects. Since the establishment of the South China Sea Special Zone, it was considered a city of vice-ministerial level. As an official in the South China Sea, he had quite a bit of autonomy. In addition, the leaders of various regions under the South China Sea enjoyed quite a bit of power. Usually, relying on their brotherly connections, wasn't everyone treated like a god? When had Wei Wenhai ever encountered such disrespect? His face darkened. Wei Wenhai looked at Luo Pinggan and said, "Well done, General Luo. There's a saying, the mountains don't move, but the rivers move. There will be plenty of opportunities, plenty of time to deal with this matter." As he spoke, Brother Hai looked at Nie Zhenbang on his side and remarked, "Young man, it seems that no great feats can be accomplished without crossing the river." Upon hearing these words, Nie Zhenbang started to laugh. He had seen far too many such ploys. Back in his previous life, right after the old master's death, and in the few years when the Nie family's influence was still present, any rich young man from Jingcheng who wished to bully him needed to find a reason. As they say, righteousness will move heaven and earth, but unreasonableness can hardly advance a single step. Back then, although the Nie family was in decline, it wasn't there for anyone to bully. But later, when the Nie Guodong brothers officially parted ways, and the Nie family fell from grace, having the last of its dignity torn away, anyone could bully Nie Zhenbang without needing any excuse. The absolute difference in conditions described a situation of having no scruples. At this moment, seeing Brother Hai's attitude, Nie Zhenbang feared that he was to be taken for a pushover. Just as the sound of Brother Hale's voice fell, a few henchmen immediately stood up. One of them pointed and shouted, "You bastard, who do you think you are, daring to fight over territory with Brother Hai? Are you tired of living? Let us teach you a lesson about who not to offend." Nie Zhenbang's face darkened, and for the first time, he got to his feet. Abandoning his previous aloofness, a grave expression on his face, he pointed to the henchman who had just insulted him and ordered, "You, slap yourself 20 times. Don't stop until you vomit blood." If there was anything that Nie Zhenbang held sacrosanct, then his mother was certainly at the top of the list. Nie Zhenbang had been dependent on his mother since he was a child. Moreover, his experiences in his previous life made him abhor two things in this one: being called a bastard, and insults towards his mother. The youngster before him had no idea that he had enraged the one man he should never have angered with just a single sentence he often used casually. Ha ha, ha ha ha. At Nie Zhenbang's words, Brother Hai was the first to burst into laughter. In the South China Sea, Brother Hai simply could not believe that anyone would have the audacity to stand against him, let alone a northerner. Even the son of the provincial party secretary had never dared to cross him. This was the special zone. Only Luo Pinggan tightened up. At this moment, Nie Zhenbang had already sprung into action. With a swift move, faster than the blink of an eye, Nie Zhenbang had moved in front of the henchman. Wham! Wham! 2 slaps came crashing down. The slap was infused with all the power in Nie Zhenbang's body. Over time, Nie Zhenbang's practice of shape-intent fist wasn't for nothing. He was fully aware of the strength it contained. All one could see was the henchman flying up, landing on the ground with a bang and spitting out a mouthful of fresh blood, mixed with a few teeth. This was Nie Zhenbang's response. Brother Hai's face darkened as he stared at Nie Zhenbang, trying to figure out something from this young man. Who was this person who dared to be so reckless? This was the first time Brother Hai had encountered such audacity. This person was from the north, his Mandarin was good, but with a distinct Tang City, Jibei accent. Could he not be from Jingcheng*? With that thought, Brother Hai said in a chilly voice, "Very well, you dare to fight. Brothers, gang up, arrest him and send him to the police station. It's a major crackdown. We're doing a big service." Ever since the national crackdown began 3 years ago, wrongful cases sprung up in many parts of the country. Although the central government emphasized discerning innocence during the crackdown, local authorities, being far from the emperor's reach, exploited loopholes. People like Brother Hai, who indiscriminately labeled the commoners under the campaign of severe crackdown, were not few. Seeing the chaos, Luo Pinggan became anxious. This was the nephew of the old leader, the direct descendant of the Nie family. If anything were to happen to him here in the South China Sea, due to the Nie family's power, it would undoubtedly doom the entire South China Sea's officials. Looking at Wei Wenhai on the side, Luo Pinggan anxiously said, "Wei Wenhai, you dare. Today, if you dare to harm a hair on him, not even your brother, nor Deputy Secretary Li can save you. Try it if you don't believe." By now, the scene had calmed. These followers were just ordinary adults, they were no match for Nie Zhenbang. Upon seeing a group of men flopping on the ground, Brother Hai froze. Shaking with fear, he pointed at Nie Zhenbang and said, You, wait for me. If you dare, don't leave." With that, he ran out, leaving the followers behind. At this point, Luo Pinggan came over, his face somewhat worried. He knew what kind of person Brother Hai was. In the South China Sea, Brother Hai had a terrible reputation. He was known for taking bribes and creating problems in the construction industry. Suddenly organizing inspections or obstructing construction sites, there was a group of people who relied on him for their livelihood. He had monopolized sand and building materials on South China Sea construction sites. Many defiant contractors had ended up in jail because of him. This time, Brother Hai would undoubtedly not let the matter drop with what Nie Zhenbang had done. "Zhenbang, let's leave. I'll negotiate the compensation with the boss here later. If we don't go now, we'll be too late when Wei Wenhai comes." Luo Pinggan began to softly persuade. Seeing Nie Zhenbang's unhappy face, Luo Pinggan added, "Zhenbang, I know. You are not afraid of him, with your family's power. You can go anywhere in the country without fear. However, the problem is, there's no one here in South China Sea right now." Nie Zhenbang sneered. At this moment, Nie Zhenbang didn't want to leave. Such a person surely wasn't good, and that so-called Secretary Wei, seemingly condoning his younger brother's actions, must be no better. Nie Zhenbang seemed to have thought of a good way to establish authority for his old man. After Nie Guowei took office, although the work was going smoothly, there were still many different voices in Ui City. This had a lot to do with Nie Guowei's personality. His political experience was mainly in the central ministries. He was somewhat naive about the harsh, or even cruel, struggles on the local level. Nie Zhenbang had been worrying about this recently, but now someone had delivered themselves to his doorstep. Nie Zhenbang naturally wouldn't miss such an opportunity. Consequently, Nie Zhenbang not only didn't leave but sat down. He looked at Luo Pinggan and said, "Uncle Luo, I'm not leaving. Why don't you call my uncle for me? I want to see what Wei Wenhai can do to me." At this moment, suddenly a voice rang out from behind, "Young Master Third, what are you doing here?" Chapter 33 Distorting the Truth. San Shao, that's what I'm called in Jingcheng. Outsiders absolutely wouldn't know this. Upon hearing this nickname, Nie Zhenbang immediately turned around. Could it be that someone from the Jingcheng circle has also come to the South China Sea? Glancing aside, an 18-year-old young man was waving at Nie Zhenbang. He walked over with a smile across his face. Nie Zhenbang was becoming a little puzzled. He didn't recognize this person. How could he know his alias in the Jingcheng circle? At this time, the young man had already walked up. He was about 1.75 meters tall. People from the south tended to be thinner and smaller. The man also had some unique characteristics of southerners. Seeing Nie Zhenbang's puzzled expression, he smiled and said, "San Shao, do you remember me? It's Guo Ming, from the entrance of the Yuying school. At that time, I was with the second brother and others." Upon hearing this, Nie Zhenbang seemed to remember. When he went to the Yuying school for the first time, there seemed to be such a person behind Nie Zhenbang. However, Nie Zhenbang didn't introduce him. It seemed this person wasn't highly regarded by Nie Zhenbang. Now, it wouldn't be polite for Nie Zhenbang not to greet him. Nie Zhenbang's principle of dealing with people was to respect those who show him respect, not to harm those who did not harm him, and to retaliate against those who offended him. He is neither boastful nor flamboyant. But no one should dare to step on him. "Ah, I remember now. Mingzi, what brings you to Yudong?" Nie Zhenbang actually didn't remember, but he pretended on the surface to recall. If others came all the way and you said you didn't remember, wouldn't that be a public slap in the face? And behind Guo Ming were a few young men and women who appeared to be in good family conditions like Guo Ming. Sure enough, hearing Nie Zhenbang's words, Guo Ming's smile deepened. He then said with a smile, "San Shao, my family is from here. My father is an official in Yudong. It's Chinese New Year, so I came back. In this era, it was always like this. In Jingcheng, at the Yuying School, at the Chaoyang Gate School. In a few schools where Jingcheng princes and princesses were concentrated, there were many students from other provinces, mostly the children of provincial and departmental leaders. Sometimes, the connections of your children are a form of network. At certain key moments, this can give you an advantage over others." At this moment, Nie Zhenbang appeared very cordial, smiling and said, "Mingzi, don't call me San Shao. If you respect me, just call me San Jie. Today San Jie can't accompany you. I have to deal with a few jumping clowns later. You guys sit aside for a while. Once San Jie has taken care of everything, we'll chat." Quote. Guo Ming laughed at this moment. He was clear about Nie Zhenbang's identity, a prominent figure in the third generation of the Nie family. A person whom even Nie Zhenbang had to obey. Given the power of the Nie family, they certainly don't need help in small matters. However, asking or not asking is a matter of attitude. If you ask, it represents your attitude. If San Jie is doing it, there won't be any problems. These people don't deserve San Jiel's action. If San Jie doesn't mind, can I handle the following matters? Guo Ming further expressed his intentions. Nie Zhenbang shook his head slightly at this moment. Ever since he had swept away Zhou Chen's face in Jingcheng and, in the end, Zhou Chen had gone to Chunan province dejectedly, Nie Zhenbang's reputation had already spread in the Jingcheng circle. The princes and princesses in the Jingcheng circle weren't fools. They understood that Nie Zhenbang, despite not being acknowledged publicly by the Nie family, had definitely received their support privately. Otherwise, an illegitimate child would never dare to be so impudent. If Nie Zhenbang backed down at this moment, that wouldn't be Nie Zhenbang. He then said, "Mingzi, I appreciate your kindness. I'll handle this matter by myself. I want to see just how powerful this special administrative region's officials are." Upon hearing Nie Zhenbang's words, Guo Ming laughed awkwardly and then backed down. On the side, a few young men and women gathered around. "Mingzi, who is this guy? He seems quite impressive. You're the governor's son. Do you really need to be this courteous?" One of the men casually spoke up. Guo Ming glanced at the young man, Zhang Wei. The young man's father was a standing committee member of the South China Sea City's Municipal Party Committee, and the secretary of the city's Political and Legal Affairs Committee. He had close ties with Guo Ming's father and was considered part of his father's camp. Normally, Guo Ming would not have bothered answering such a question from others. However, now he casually replied, "Politeness aside, haven't you heard the saying, until you go to Jingcheng, you can't comprehend the size of the officialdom? My father is merely a locally born vice-provincial cadre. Even if Shang Bangguo's son goes to Jingcheng, he has to walk with his head bowed down. In Jingcheng, what does the child of a provincial ministerial cadre account for?" Having spoken, Guo Ming walked towards his phone. At that moment, a group of policemen rushed in from outside. Wei Wenhai trailed behind them. At this moment, Wei Wenhai, who had appeared downcast moments ago, was now imperious. His gaze swept over Nie Zhenbang, who was still present, and passed over Luo Pinggan. He then laughed uproariously, "Luo Pinggan, your audacity is really something. Daring not to run away. Well, since you're offering yourself up for punishment, don't blame me. Captain Lu, this is the man who, for no reason at all, knocked over my friends. He's suspected of intentional assault and injury. I suggest you arrest such a dangerous person immediately, as per the law." Captain Lu was the head of the public security detachment in the port area. Wei Wenhai was the local tyrant of the area. He was the younger sibling of the port area party secretary. As the youngest in his family, he was brazen enough to swear at the party secretary of the port area, right in front of him. Captain Lu knew both Luo Pinggan and Nie Zhenbang, but he didn't recognize the man next to them. Judging by his dress and demeanor, he didn't appear to be someone significant. Captain Lu sighed, wondering why Nie Zhenbang had to offend Wei Wenhai. Then, Captain Lu stepped forward, presented his police badge to Nie Zhenbang and said, "Young man, someone has accused you of intentional bodily injury. Please come with us." On the side, Wei Wenhai began to clamor, "Old Lu, why talk so much? Just take him away directly. In this time of severe punishment, isn't it supposed to be a strict, severe and fast trial? My friends here are all injured because of him, we have all the evidence we need and the people to testify against him. I see no point in him trying to escape. What are you afraid of?" As Wei Wenhai's words came to an end, the police officers present began to approach them. Witnessing this, Nie Zhenbang's brows furrowed. He was well aware that local officials could be daring. In his previous life, a child from Jingcheng who went to Exhibei was dealt with by local officials there. In the end, all that was left was a corpse. Although that official's family was punished afterward, death was irreversible, and anything else seemed meaningless. What's happening? Are you going to act purely based on the one-sided declarations of this man? This seems too naive, Nie Zhenbang sneered, looking calmly at the police. At this moment, the owner of the revolving restaurant also stepped forward. Luo Pinggan was well known in the South China Sea's business sector. The owner of the revolving restaurant also came forward as Luo Pinggan went to great lengths to protect the young man. "Gentlemen, I'm the owner of this establishment. It's true that the young man initiated the fight, however, these people are not entirely blameless. I think you should proceed more carefully." At this time, Luo Pinggan also took a step forward. "Wei Wenhai, if you dare to arrest him, you'll have to step over my dead body first. Let's see if you dare to kill me, a representative of the People's Congress of the South China Sea. Arrest him. Old Lu, do you want to keep your job as captain or not? If anything happens, I'll take responsibility for it," Wei Wenhai shouted as he saw Luo Pinggan once again interject. With Wei Wenhai's continuous prodding, Captain Lu's men finally sprung into action. Nie Zhenbang stepped forward, snorted, and said, "Since none of you care for the truth, then don't blame me for not showing any courtesy." Nie Zhenbang didn't get far before there was the sound of movement from outside. Shortly afterward, a group of fully armed soldiers rushed in. One of the uniformed officers leading the group walked up, looked around, and asked, "Who is Comrade Luo Pinggan?" Chapter 34 Big Trouble. A group of armed soldiers charged into this high-end place, completely disregarding any image of brotherhood. The first sentence out of their mouth was to ask who Luo Pinggan was. This sentence immediately made the whole situation go silent. At this moment, Wei Wenhai was also taken aback, then burst into laughter, saying, "Luo Pinggan, who doesn't know that you're a former construction engineering division commander? If you were an official in the administration, I might even defer to you. However, now you're just a self-employed individual, at most a slightly bigger one. You even dare to leverage your connections to mobilize the army. It seems that you don't know what the word, death, means." Speaking, Wei Wenhai addressed Captain Lu next to him. "Old Lu, immediately contact reinforcements, tell them that someone here is misusing the army and we need immediate suppression." This kid even uses the word suppression. It's ridiculous that he's suggesting the police suppress the military. What logic? Luo Pinggan chuckled. Everyone said that Wei Wenhai was unlearned. Now it all made sense. The National Army, was it something one could mobilize? Not to mention he had already retired, and had no connection with the military. Even if he was still in the military, only the engineering troops under his command could be moved. It was absolutely impossible to mobilize any other troops. At the same time, Luo Pinggan also gained insight into the power and tactics of the Nie family. The old leader was giving him face right now. Instead of looking for the direct descendants of the Nie family, they immediately came looking for him. To outsiders, this would raise a speculation. His relationship with the military was not shallow and today's matter would soon spread throughout Nane. In the future, whether it be in the Nane official circle or business world, people would have to be careful around him. Immediately after, Luo Pinggan stepped forward and said, "I am Luo Pinggan. I was dining with this younger brother when we were harassed by these people. These people spoke rudely. My younger brother stepped in only then. Now, these people want to take my younger brother away." Luo Pinggan understood very clearly that when these soldiers arrived, the local military leaders must have instructed them. As expected, after listening to him, the complexion of the army officer leading the team changed. Before they arrived, the political commissar of the military region had reminded them 1,000 times that the safety of the young man accompanying Luo Pinggan had to be ensured. The officer glanced at Nie Zhenbang and immediately saluted. Yuezhou Military Area, the 79th Tiger Camp Commander, Han Zhangguo reports. Awaiting your instructive orders, sir. At this moment, Nie Zhenbang glanced at Luo Pinggan beside him, then said, these people, perverting the course of justice and colluding with gangsters. Take them all away. With Nie Zhenbang's words falling, a group of vigilant soldiers pulled the triggers of their weapons. This scene shocked the spectators in the restaurant. Who was this person? He was so audacious. At this moment, Guo Ming felt a sense of great respect. The young people next to Guo Ming were also stunned, whispering in Guo Ming's ear, young Master Guo, who is this friend of yours? He's so bold. Guo Ming just sneered without responding. If they ever went to Jingcheng, then they would know where they stood. At this time, Wei Wenhai also froze. Originally, he thought it was just an easy target. However, he didn't expect the army to be mobilized, especially the Tiger Battalion of the 79th Army. This was the direct reconnaissance camp of the 79th Army. As a local of Nan'e, Wei Wenhai knew this bit of common knowledge. At this moment, Captain Liu was also taken aback, but upon seeing that the military was about to act, if he didn't speak now, he wouldn't even have a chance later on. Immediately, Captain Liu stepped forward, took out his police credentials and said, Comrade, I am Liu Shunan, the head of the public security team of the Port Area Police Station. Is there some misunderstanding between us? Misunderstanding? Ha, there's no misunderstanding. The officer's gaze swept over Captain Liu and the others. Immediately, he waved his hand, disarm them and take them all away. If they resist, they are to be charged with treason. The officer was also a smart character. When he received the orders from the political commissar, one sentence from the commissar was still fresh in his memory. Comrade Xiao Shang, the head of the military region, is paying great attention to this. You must ensure the safety of important personages. The officer understood very clearly that as a field army, they were out of the jurisdiction of the Nan'e military region. The head of the military region, then, could only possibly refer to the head of Yuezhou military region. This was a leadership position in a large military region. If he performed well, his future would be worry-free. At this point, if these people dared to use a crackdown to frame him, he would dare to charge them with treason. After all, if something happened, someone would definitely intervene. Captain Liu was also stunned. Treason. Was it really necessary? Following the officer's orders, the soldiers swarmed forward and seized these people. Only then did the officer salute and say, Commander, we have orders from our political commissar. Please come with us to the military guest house for rest. This was also a protection measure. At this point, Nie Zhenbang had made an enemy of Wei Wenhai. Staying in Nan'e was not safe, so the only option was to go to the military. They would wait until higher-ranking officials came calling. As everyone left, the owner of the revolving restaurant hurried to the phone. Wei Wenhai had been arrested in his restaurant. Regardless, he had to report to Wei Wenhai. After the restaurant owner finished the call, Guo Ming stepped forward and said, Mr. Zheng, I think you'd better tell Deputy Secretary Li directly about this. Simply reporting to Wei Wenhai won't get us anywhere. May I borrow your phone? I need to report this to my father. The words of Guo Ming shocked the restaurant owner, especially considering how submissive Guo Ming had been in front of that young man. Guo Ming was even reporting to Deputy Governor Guo. The Deputy Governor was a member of the Yudong Provincial Committee and the Standing Deputy Governor. He was a likely candidate for governor and carried significant influence in Yudong Province. For a moment, the entire Nan'e and the high-ranking officials of Yudong Province were shocked. As a special economic zone, everything in Nan'e was under the spotlight. Nan'e held a status equivalent to a vice-ministerial level. A district was equivalent to a vice-department level unit. An entire district's public security bureau and dozens of its police officers had been disarmed and taken by the military. Upon receiving this news, Wei Wenhai hit the table and stood up. But after a while, he sat down again and instructed his secretary, prepare the car, we're going to the 79th Army Station. Nan'e Municipal Committee Compound. At the home of Li Qianjun, the standing committee member of Yudong Provincial Committee and secretary of Nan'e Municipal Committee. As Li's secretary finished his report about the event at the revolving restaurant, Li Qianjun straightened up saying, "The Ninth Army. Cheng Mazi's forces had been dispatched. Interesting, it seems that Wei Wenhai is in trouble. Secretary Li, do you think we should?" The secretary began to suggest. Secretary Li waved his hand and shook his head. "No, let's leave this matter to Vice Secretary Li. Let's just sit back and watch the spectacle. It's unusual for Cheng Mazi to get involved. It seems that the visiting young man must be from the Nie family." Secretary Li, also from a prestigious family in Jingcheng, was quite comparable to the Nie family in terms of background. His family was also quite influential in the central government. The Li family, known as reformists and trusted allies of the Yang family, were two key players around the country's leader. Nane, as a vanguard of reform and opening up, needed reliable people to oversee it. Being the heir of the Li family, Secretary Li was naturally assigned here. Meanwhile, after receiving a phone call from Guoming, the entire Yudong province started to get in motion. Shui Ligong, the standing committee member of the Yudong Provincial Committee, the secretary of the provincial committee, as well as the chief political commissar of the Yudong Provincial Military Region, was regarded as the most important cornerstone of Yudong. Despite the fact that Shui participated in the anti-Japanese war when he was just a child soldier, his credentials were undeniable. After being placed in Yudong post-war and quickly moving up the ranks, Shui's authority in Yudong was beyond question. At this moment, it was already past 9 in the evening. According to Shui's routine, he would have been in bed by now. Just then, the phone beside his bed rang. As soon as Shui picked up, Vice Secretary Chu Jung-nan's voice came from the other side. "Secretary Shui, something has happened in Nane." Chapter 35 Position Swap. What? The 79th Army has been mobilized and detained the local government officials. What exactly is happening? Upon hearing this, Shui Ligong immediately sat up, shaking off most of his drowsiness. After a moment, Shui Ligong promptly made a decision. "Comrade Jung Nan, notify the standing committee members at home to rush to the provincial committee conference room for a meeting immediately." While the incident sent shockwaves throughout Yudong province, Nie Zhenbang was currently sitting in the guest house of the 9th Army stationed in Nane City. Cheng Banguo, the commander of the 79th Army, was sitting next to him at this moment. Despite being the commander, he didn't try to assert his authority. Instead, he acted as though they were having casual small talk. Despite the young man before him not even being 18 years old yet, Cheng Banguo didn't look down on him. With a smile, he said, "Zhenbang, I've heard about you from Guodong before. And seeing you in person now, you truly are outstanding. These people were arrested by me for you. So, what do you plan to do next?" Before coming, Nie Zhenbang had already got some information from Luo Pingan. Wei Wenhai's elder brother, Wei Wenage, is the head of Kuan District, which directly borders Hong Kong, and is also known as the Inner Gate. As the most important district in Nane, its secretary also serves as a standing member of the city committee. And standing behind Wei Wenage is Li, the deputy secretary of the Nane Municipal Committee. Nie Zhenbang never believed in staying clean while involved in a dirty situation. There's a saying in the military, if your leader is corrupt, the whole team is corrupt. If Deputy Secretary Li were a good person, would Wei during a special period dare to be so rampant? Obviously, that's impossible. Then, Nie Zhenbang said with a smile, "Uncle Cheng, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you on behalf of my parents for this matter. I ask that you press on with the investigation and unearth the evidence of these people's illegal activities. I've already called my parents. They're on their way and should arrive around midnight tonight." This statement surprised Cheng Banguo. Initially, he thought it was simply a childish fight, with the adult members of the Nie family just supporting their descendant. But now, he saw that the matter wasn't as simple as he had imagined. The fact that Nie Zhenbang could mobilize Nie Guowei's couple alone was enough to clarify the issue. Right after, Cheng Banguo also said seriously, "Zhenbang, rest assured. In my investigative team, no matter who someone is, or how hard they resist, I guarantee they'll spill everything within 3 hours." As he spoke, a hint of pride appeared on Cheng Banguo's face. It's known that the 9th Army was one of the few domestic forces that had seen real combat and shed blood, having participated in the counterattack against Vietnam several years ago. The army had its own methods. In this era, there weren't any specific rules against torture, and Nie Zhenbang wasn't about to say anything about that. He nodded slightly and said, "Uncle Chang, thank you in advance." "Sir, several government vehicles have stopped outside the military region. They claim to be from the Kuan District Committee and they want to see you. What do you think?" At this moment, an officer walked in from outside and spoke to Cheng Banguo. Cheng Banguo made a slight hand gesture, a hint of annoyance appearing on his face. District Secretary Wei Wenage seemed to be taking himself too seriously. Cheng termed himself as a high-ranking officer equivalent to the commander of the Yudong Provincial Military Region. He waved it off, saying to an aide next to him, "Comrade Gu, reply to them for me. Say that I'm currently attending an emergency meeting of the Yuezhou Military Region and I don't have time." Wei during a special period was showing a face of urgency right now. Knowing his brother was in trouble, Wei Wenage immediately took action. He knew what Wei Wenhai had done over the years. Apart from being spoiled by their mother, Wei Wenhai had also helped him significantly. This was why Wei Wenage was anxious. It was already past 11 at night. Right then, a car with a UI license plate drove into the 79th Army's garrison, making Wei Wenage even more anxious. At this moment, the lights were still on in the guest house. As soon as Ni Guowei and Yi Shushan entered, Nie Zhenbang rose to his feet and saw the concerned look on Yi Shushan's face. It moved him. This stepmother of his, to be honest, was quite good. Regardless of whether it was in his previous life or now, she had fulfilled the responsibilities of a stepmother. At this moment, this attitude could not be feigned. Thinking of this and seeing Cheng beside him, Nie Zhenbang smiled and said, "Mom, why did you have to come, too? Ziyu might be scared alone at home." Nie Zhenbang's words made Yi Shushan stand stiffly, shaking slightly. Looking at Nie Zhenbang, her expression became quite emotional. She nodded, her eyes filling with tears. Ni Guowei looked surprised too. His relationship with his son was not the best. As a father, he had failed his duties. He didn't understand what Nie Zhenbang thought, did, or needed. Even his own political career relied on his son's strategizing, making Ni Guowei feel quite embarrassed. His attitude was gradually changing. At this moment, Ni Guowei was quick-witted. He immediately smiled and said, "Shushan, sit down first. It must be tiring to rush over like this. Zhenbang, don't worry about Ziyu. I've asked my secretary to look after her in UI. There will be no problems." Yi Shushan came back to her senses. As one who grew up in a major family, the Yi family was a scholarly family, with Yi Lao being a famous scholar general of his time. Thanks to the strict upbringing, Yi Shushan gently said, "Ziyu will be fine. But Zhenbang, you didn't get hurt, right? When we received the call from Brother Cheng, we rushed over. This situation is outrageous. How could anyone dare to misuse state institutions for personal service?" Then, looking at Cheng, Yi Shushan said, "Brother Cheng, you must investigate this thoroughly." Cheng nodded at this moment. He could disregard Ni Guowei's words, but he had to listen to Yi Shushan's. He used to be a guard under Yi Lao and was promoted by the Yi family. As the saying goes, gratitude begets service, and the key lies in crucial moments like this. Seeing that the family seemed to have something to discuss, Cheng very prudently said, "Guowei, I'll leave you all to chat. I have some things to take care of, so I'll take my leave." After Cheng left, Ni Guowei said seriously, "Zhenbang, what on earth are you doing? Even if you were bullied, with old Cheng here and your uncle backing you up, you couldn't be in any real trouble. So why did you call us over?" Seeing the puzzled look on Yi Shushan's face, Nie Zhenbang smiled and said, "It was a spur-of-the-moment decision when I noticed certain individuals walking right into my hands. Mom, don't you think that now is the perfect time for Dad to secure a better position?" Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 36-5, Is This Possible? 1. Swap Positions. Both Ni Guowei and Yi Shushan were surprised, but Yi Shushan quickly recovered, looking at Nie Zhenbang with a different gaze. In others' families, parents wished their sons to become dragons and their daughters to become phoenixes. But in her own family, this seemed to be the exact opposite. Now that she had heard Nie Zhenbang call her Mom, Yi Shushan's heart was completely open. The initial emotional turmoil disappeared. When Nie Zhenbang first came into the family, Yi Shushan had conflicting feelings. On one hand, she wished for Nie Zhenbang to be competent so that the Nie family would not be too pitifully defeated. At least, there would still be a man to carry on the family's legacy. On the other hand, this was a secret child born from her husband's affair, even though it was before she got married to him. When she saw Nie Zhenbang, she did sometimes wish that this incident had never happened. After all, it was a kind of humiliation for her. But now, she no longer had these concerns. After Yi Shushan's mentality returned to normal, she regained her original cultured and refined demeanor. Nie Guowei was still pondering the words when Yi Shushan looked at Nie Zhenbang in surprise. Once she ascertained that her son wasn't joking, she said, "Zhenbang, you are too audacious. Can this be possible? Your father has only been appointed in UI for a few days. Would the higher-ups approve? Although both UI and Nane are special economic zones, the treatment there is quite different. UI is a mere prefecture-level city under Yudong province, while Nane is not the same, being the first special economic zone in the country. Firstly, in terms of rank, Nane is a notch higher than UI as a bona fide sub-provincial city. In addition, when it comes to policy preferences and support, Nane is superior to UI. As a centrally administered municipality, Nane's parent unit is still Yudong province. However, it has much more autonomy than UI. This makes it easier to produce results. Initially, when Nie Guowei was demoted to serve as the mayor of UI, this was merely the best choice made by Nie Zhenbang in a hopeless situation. At least, it wasn't a wasted effort. Nie Guowei completed the crucial transformation from deputy department level to department level here. That is the key point. It also laid a foundation for Nie Guowei's future advancement. Mom, nothing is impossible. As the saying goes, where there's a will, there's a way, Nie Zhenbang said with a smile. When Cheng Mazi was around earlier, Nie Zhenbang, considering Yi Shushan's dignity, finally took the difficult step of calling a strange woman, Mom. This was the first time he had ever done so, including both his past and present life. But after he got over this daunting step, Nie Zhenbang felt unbound. He doesn't find it too challenging to call her, Mom, anymore. Seeing the perplexed looks on the two's faces, Nie Zhenbang continued, however, you guys cannot propose this condition. This time, I seized the opportunity. Taking down the district secretary Wei Wen is absolutely feasible. This man, in collusion with his brother, misused his position for their private gain. If rightly carried out, even his boss, the acting secretary Li, will have to take responsibility. With that, our opportunity will come. At this point, Nie Zhenbang deliberately glanced at his father, and then said, just not sure if you have the guts, Dad. This deputy secretary Li, as far as I know, is a very influential figure. His supporter is none other than the Zhou family. Hearing Nie Zhenbang's words, Nie Guowei chuckled and gave a reprimanding laugh. You, this kid, are using reverse psychology. Although I don't have that much ability, the people of Nie family have never lacked courage. You just tell us how to do it. Your mom and I will support you unconditionally. As for your uncle, I will talk to him. At this time, Cheng Mazi walked in from outside. Seeing the family of three happily chatting, he smiled and said, Guowei, Shushan, the deputy secretary of the Nane Municipal Committee, Li, is here. He is outside and says he wants to meet with me. What do you think, should I meet him or not? Although Cheng Mazi belonged to the field army system, since he was stationed near Nane, maintaining a harmonious relationship with the local government was still necessary. Cheng Mazi did not want the situation to become irreconcilable. He came in and asked this question, clearly revealing his own intention. Nie Guowei was about to speak, but to his surprise, Yi Shushan pulled at his clothes. She gave Nie Guowei a sharp glance. Her husband was good at everything, but his political skills were too weak. Isn't this deputy secretary position the one their son was aiming for? Meeting at this point wouldn't be beneficial. Then, Yi Shushan took the lead and said, Brother Cheng, do you have any difficulties? If you do, I won't say anything. If not, we would like to see what Zhenbang's attitude is. After all, he is the main party involved in this matter. This child really is spoiled by us. At home, he's never been slighted. Even his grandfather indulged him. There's nothing we can do. Our elders favor the youngest generation. Cheng Mazi was stunned for a moment. He hadn't expected that he would misjudge the situation twice today. This Nie Zhenbang, despite his young age, actually held such a high status in the Nie family. Are they planning to cultivate him as the successor of the third generation? How come he hadn't heard about this? Cheng Mazi was a bit confused. He immediately laughed and said, "Shushan, what are you talking about? What difficulties could I have? I don't answer to the Yudong province. My direct leader is your family's eldest uncle. You guys can just decide how it should be handled. I will fully support you." At this moment, Nie Zhenbang also stood up and said, "Uncle Cheng, I owe you one. I know what you're worried about. However, don't worry, wait until the Secretary Li from the Nan'e Municipal Committee arrives. I assure you that everything here will remain the same as in the past. There will be harmonious relations between the military and the residents. There will be no impact." Right then and there, outside the base of the 79th Army, two sedans were parked. Deputy Secretary Li, around 50 years old, whose hair had thinned quite drastically to the point of being bald, was wearing a pair of gold-rimmed glasses. He looked very much like a successful man. Seeing Wei Wen standing in front of him like a grade school student, Deputy Secretary Li scolded, "You good for nothing. I've already warned you to be cautious, to be low profile. Look at your brother here, pulling this kind of stunt." Just then, a soldier came out from the base, looked around at the crowd expressionlessly, and asked, "Who is Deputy Secretary Li?" Upon hearing this, Deputy Secretary Li immediately greeted him with a beaming smile, "That would be me, it is. Young comrade, you must be tired. What did Director Cheng say? Is he available now?" The soldier indifferently glanced at Deputy Secretary Li. In the eyes of these soldiers, they don't care if you are a secretary or not. In their sight, only the orders from the superior officer count. He simply said, "The director said that he is currently busy preparing for the annual regional military exercise. Come back tomorrow." Right at that moment, at the entrance of the base, along the road leading to Nan'e City, a car fleet headed towards them slowly with their police lights flashing. When the car stopped, a group of people stepped out from the vehicle in front. Seeing the two people leading the group, Deputy Secretary Li, who was originally observing from the side, was taken aback. His heart missed a beat, wondering what the hell was going on. Even the provincial party Secretary Shui Ligong was involved. He also saw the municipal party secretary Li Qianjin accompanying Shui Ligong. Deputy Secretary Li immediately ran over and said in a low voice, "Secretary Shui, Secretary Qianjin, how come you're here?" Chapter 37. Another article. If it weren't for the trouble in the South China Sea, Shui Ligong wouldn't be so tense. However, things are different now. There has always been a dispute over the South China Sea domestically. Some people say that the South China Sea is a concession. If something happens in the South China Sea, he is the provincial party secretary, cannot divest himself of the blame. Why just came now? If you don't come soon, the South China Sea will probably make international news. Shui Ligong walked ahead with a glum look on his face, letting out a cold humph. Before coming here, Shui Ligong had a discussion with Nie Guodong, the deputy commander and first political commissar of Yuezhou military region. The meaning of Nie Guodong was clear. The one involved in this incident was his younger brother Nie Guowei's son, Nie Zhenbang. How to let go of the situation, Nie Guodong said he couldn't decide. It would have to be up to either Nie Guowei or Nie Zhenbang himself. Shui Ligong was also somewhat shocked. He was clear about Nie Guowei, Yilao's son-in-law. Considering his own affiliation to Yilao's lineage, there was some affinity. However, from Nie Guodong's words, Shui Ligong caught something useful. It seemed that the old Nie patriarch highly valued Nie Zhenbang. Otherwise, how could the core figure of the second generation of the Nie family, the heir of the Nie family, be unable to control a young member of the Nie family? Watching Shui Ligong's departing figure, the secretary of Nan'e Municipal Committee, Li Qianjin, glanced at Deputy Secretary Li. Although they were from the same clan, they didn't have much relationship. Li Qianjin was from Chubei, while Deputy Secretary Li was from Longxi. Moreover, on normal days, Deputy Secretary Li and Li Qianjin didn't get along well. Hence, at this moment, Li Qianjun didn't mince words, whispering bitterly as he passed Deputy Secretary Li, "Look at the mess you've made." Shui Ligong, who was already at the guard post, said to the guard, "Comrade. I'm Shui Ligong, the secretary of the Yudong Provincial Party Committee. Please notify your director Cheng of my arrival." As a high-ranking official of a province, especially a prosperous economic province like Yudong, and given his position as a member of the Politburo, Shui Ligong naturally carried himself with a certain demeanor. At this point, the guard did not dare to act arrogant and quickly replied, "Please wait a moment, leader. I will go in immediately to report." In the guest house room, Nie Zhenbang was resting with his eyes closed. He was planning his actions for when the dust settled. After this, the layout of Walmart in Yudong would basically be completed. He didn't need to worry about the rest. With Yang Onbong involved, the development of Walmart wouldn't have too many problems. Now, it was time for him to make a trip to the Soviet Union. But before leaving, he had to make another grand entrance for his old man. It was only by thoroughly aligning the Nie family with the reformist faction that Nie Zhenbang could feel at ease. After all, going overseas wasn't something that could be finished in a day or two. Guowei, Shushan, the Yudong Provincial Committee Secretary Shui Ligong has come here personally. He's currently outside the garrison. What should we do? Cheng Mazi was getting rather flustered. He hadn't expected that the arrest of such a small fish would draw out Shui Ligong. Hearing that, Nie Zhenbang quickly stood up and said to Cheng Mazi, "Uncle Cheng, did you prepare the things I asked you? It's about time now." Cheng Mazi was somewhat confused, but nodded and said, "Of course, I didn't know until I checked." I was shocked. This Wei Wenhai, ever since his brother took office, he has been using his power to seize a lot of businesses in the port area. Many people have been driven to bankruptcy and ruin by him. Some were even sentenced on charges of hooliganism. At least more than 5 million yuan has been amassed illegally. Hearing this, a smile appeared on Nie Zhenbang's face. As expected, his speculation was correct. Even in the 21st century, few people dared to be so arrogant. If someone was this audacious now, there must be something shady behind him. Now that he knew the result, Nie Zhenbang was relieved. Things seemed to be going as planned now. "Uncle Cheng, mother and father, since Secretary Shui of the Yudong Provincial Committee has personally come, how about we go greet him together? After all, my dad is still one of Secretary Shui's soldiers." Nie Zhenbang said with a smile, with the demeanor of a great general. "Your son is barely 20 years old and still so immature. Why is the offspring of the Nie family so outstanding?" As the group approached the door, it naturally followed that Cheng Banguo led them. Cheng Mazi, with a smile already on his face, stepped forward to greet them, shaking hands with Shui Ligong, saying, "I am truly humbled that Secretary Shui would visit in person. My neglect is to blame for this." Shui Ligong scanned his gaze over Cheng Mazi and Nie Zhenbang among others, then, with a laugh, said, "Old Cheng, you and I both come from military backgrounds. I've just served for a few more years than you. There's no need to be so formal. And this young man here, he must be Nie Zhenbang. The lad looks quite promising. It only makes me feel just how old I've gotten when I see you." At this moment, Shui Ligong deliberately ignored Nie Guowei. This was his indirect method of expressing his discontent towards Nie Guowei. So what if you're a descendant of the Nie family? So what if your brother is the vice commander of the Yuezhou military region? This is Yudong and you're an official reporting to the Yudong province. I am still your direct superior. Nie Zhenbang smiled slightly. In terms of this matter, he did indeed go a bit too far. Regardless, he should have at least gave Shui Ligong a heads up. Then, Nie Zhenbang shot a glance at Yi Shushan who was standing nearby. Understanding his intent, Yi Shushan nodded and stepped forward to greet, "Uncle Shui, we haven't met for a long time. You're still as spirited as ever. Do you remember Shushan?" As a former bodyguard of Yi Lao, Shui Ligong watched Yi Shushan grow up. Now that she had addressed him in such a manner, Shui Ligong found it hard to keep a stern face. The group followed behind Cheng Mazi into the military district guest house. Once everyone had taken their seats, Nie Zhenbang began to speak. "Grandpa Shui, this incident was truly my fault. I did not expect it to alarm you. I have definitely overstepped in this matter. If there were any mistakes committed, I hope that you may vindicate me. Here, I apologize to you. First and foremost, Nie Zhenbang took a humble approach, which made it difficult for Shui Ligong to hold on to the matter. Immediately, he smiled and said, Shushan, you indeed have a good son. At this moment, Nie Zhenbang took out some documents that Cheng Mazi had prepared and handed them over to Shui Ligong, saying, Grandpa Shui, please take a look at these. They are some pieces of information that I unintentionally acquired. You adults can continue your discussion. I'm going to step out for a bit. This was a strategic retreat on the part of Nie Zhenbang. Describing Shui Ligong as an old fox may sound derogatory, but it was a fact. With this situation, simply handing over the evidence should be enough to clarify the matter. Giving Shui Ligong the opportunity to handle this matter, rather than directly sending it to the central government, was a clear gesture. Shui Ligong knew full well what he had to do. After all, Yi Shushan and Ni Guowei were still in the room, and he had already paved the way for the old man. If he couldn't grasp this opportunity, it would be better if he resigned and retired early from this officialdom. Sure enough, 2 hours later, even though it was then past 3 in the morning, a group of people emerged from the conference room. Shui Ligong appeared calm, while the expression on the face of Li Qianjun, the secretary of the Nan'e Municipal Committee, remained inscrutable. Seeing Nie Zhenbang approach him, Shui Ligong revealed a faint smile, patting Nie Zhenbang's shoulder and said, Zhenbang, isn't it? You are quite good. If you get a chance in the future, you must come to Grandpa Shui's house in Yuezhou. With that, Shui Ligong turned to Li Qianjun and said, Comrade Qianjun, this is a wake-up call. In the process of reform and opening up, we must never slacken our oversight of party discipline and clean government. This is a lesson learned through blood and tears. The leading group of the Nan'e Municipal Committee must always keep this in mind. Regarding this Wei scandal, my opinion is to conduct a thorough investigation and enforce severe punishment. Any related officials should be reassigned. This time, I have decided to let Comrade Guowei enrich the ranks of the Standing Committee of Nan'e Munichi Dal Committee. As Shui Ligong left, the political scene in Nan'e shifted the following day. Li Qianjun immediately convened a meeting of the Standing Committee of the Nan'e Municipal Committee. At the meeting, after Li Qianjun reported the disciplinary violations of Wei Wenhai, the secretary of the District Committee of the Port Area, the Nan'e Municipal Discipline Committee immediately decided to suspend Wei Wenhai for investigation. At the same time, Li Qianjun, on behalf of the Provincial Committee, announced the resolutions of the Provincial Committee. Deputy Secretary Li of the Municipal Committee would be transferred to serve as Deputy Secretary of Ui Municipal Committee, and Ni Guowei, Mayor of Ui City, would be transferred to serve as a member of the Standing Committee and Deputy Secretary of Nan'e Municipal Committee. In the residential area of the Nan'e Municipal Committee, inside the newly assigned house for Ni Guowei, Nie Zhenbang, holding a set of documents, emerged from the study. Seeing Nie Guowei and Yi Shushan sitting on the sofa watching the news, Nie Zhenbang said, Dad, this is an article that I wrote. I'd like to publish it using your name. Take a look. Nie Guowei, puzzled, took the document. Just a glance at the title was enough for him to jump up from his seat, exclaiming in surprise, Zhenbang, aren't you being too bold? Chapter 38 What are you? The Nie family's sudden move completely shattered the conservatives' forecast. This was something they had never anticipated. Since the conservatives had gained the upper hand, a nationwide craze of cracking down on speculation had emerged over these past few months. After sentencing a number of individual traders, the momentum of reform had slightly eased, somewhat contained. Just when everyone was celebrating and preparing for a potential counterattack from the reformists, they were caught off guard by the Nie family, which at this moment, had unexpectedly taken the lead in the reformists' counterstrike. Regarding the reform of the party and national leadership system, the title of the article was enough to clarify the matter. Moreover, these were words the Nanzun chief had said in the previous years. The article vetoed the rushed promotions employed during the previous period of chaos and proposed the concept of youth-based cadre solutions. All these bore clear marks of reformists. Comrade Zuri, at this moment, also began taking action, indirectly criticizing such thoughts at multiple central leadership meetings. At the same time, he made a very stern statement concerning the current situation. Meanwhile, at this time, at the military commission meeting, quite a few members proposed their views, concerning the two Nie brothers, one serving as deputy commander of the Uezhou military region, and the other as deputy secretary of the Peng City Municipal Party Committee. This was enough to raise eyebrows all around. At Comrade Zhuri's instigation, some members jointly suggested that Comrade Nie Guodong be transferred out of the Uezhou military region and reassigned as deputy commander of the Tianfu or Exabei military region. Inside the military commission meeting room, Elder Nie kept a calm countenance, revealing no sign of fluctuations. The leader on the main seat seemed thoughtful. After scanning the committee members who were engaged in the discussion, the leader tapped the table saying, "Stop arguing. All this noise won't solve any problem. Let's do a democratic vote to decide." Upon hearing the leader say this, Elder Nie lifted his head, gave the leader a glance, and spoke, "Before voting, I would like to say a few words. Comrade Nie Guodong is my son. In the spirit of avoiding suspicion, I decline to vote." The final result of the conference was that Nie Guodong was reassigned to serve as deputy commander and first deputy political commissar of the Exabei military region. Although the rank was the same, everyone knew that the Uezhou military region was the country's largest and oversaw the vast land force group of the South while also commanding the South China Sea Fleet stationed in the South China Sea. Although the positions were identical, the pros and cons of the new and old position were clear to everyone. The conservatives were completely delighted in the misfortune. By all accounts, the Nie family had truly stumbled this time. Similarly, Nie Zhenbang in Jingcheng also sensed this shift. With the conservatives' counterattack, Walmart supermarkets' nationwide expansion was also hit to different degrees. Many locations that had already signed agreements and were just awaiting redecoration had backed out due to the changing situation. The 5 supermarkets and 2 department stores in Jingcheng have sequentially received various inspections: tax, sanitation, and fire safety. If it hadn't been for Nie Zhenbang's insistence on adhering to standards from the start, Walmart supermarkets would have likely been shut down for rectification by now. Thus, Nie Zhenbang's original plan to head to the Soviet Union was temporarily put on hold. Sitting in the Walmart's headquarters on Wangfujing Street, looking at the business report in front of him, Nie Zhenbang's brows furrowed. Second brother, Yang Onbong, come here," Nie Zhenbang called out, but hearing no response, he decided to use their full names instead. At that moment, Yang Onbong came in from outside, holding a thick pile of documents with a grim expression. Placing them on the table, he said with a heavy voice, "Damn it, who'd have thought we'd get screwed over by an out-of-towner? He dares to mess with me. It seems that after all these years of us lying IOW, people MTM's capital city knaves stopical taking us Drottners seriously. What is it, young Master Yang? Who's the fool that's pissed you off? A coal boss?" Nie Zhenbang was a bit confused. Yang Onbong usually conducted himself with the demeanor of a scholar merchant, claiming that was the way of a nobleman, a gentleman. Swearing as he had, was truly out of character for him. What's going on? Why has the business turnover fallen so sharply this month? The total sales of 5 supermarkets and 2 department stores around the city has decreased by half. Even though this is traditionally a slower period, this underperformance is far beyond normal. Nie Zhenbang pointed to the report on the table and asked Yang Onbong. Yang Onbong put down the documents, sat down, and pulled out a pack of special supply Panda cigarettes from his pocket. He tossed a cigarette to Nie Zhenbang, saying, "Have a smoke. These are hard for me to get from my old man." Nie Zhenbang smiled as he pinched the Panda cigarette. It was amusing. In his previous life, Nie Zhenbang didn't have this privilege. He had smoked Zhonghua cigarettes all his life. Even when he had hit hard times, thanks to Yang Anna's support, he had never lacked Zhonghua cigarettes. In this life, although Nie Zhenbang could get Panda cigarettes, he hadn't smoked them yet. He lit the cigarette with practiced ease and took a puff before saying, "Spill it. What happened to make you, the second young master of Yang family, so angry?" Yang Onbong reclined on the sofa, blowing smoke rings for a while before saying, "It's the new guy. His father used to be the Communist Party secretary of Jiangnan province, and is now a Politburo member and state councillor. He's from the same faction as Secretary Zuri, and is even said to be Zuri's most trusted confidant. This kid is the youngest son of Yang. He's 23 years old this year, so technically, he's from the same generation as our fathers. After he arrived in Beijing, he gathered a group of people and started causing problems for us. If he isn't causing trouble in our supermarkets, he's causing problems in our malls. Upon hearing this, Nie Zhenbang's brow furrowed. He said in a deep voice, "Second brother, this isn't like you. They've bullied their way to our doorstep and you didn't fight back." Upon hearing Nie Zhenbang's words, Yang Onbong looked uncharacteristically shy. He looked like he wanted to say something but hesitated. At this moment, Xiao Yali walked in from outside and said to Nie Zhenbang, "Zhenbang, it was my decision to not let him confront them. Do you have any objections?" Seeing the two of them acting this way, Nie Zhenbang laughed. He hadn't expected their relationship to have progressed so far since the new year. It seemed like it wouldn't be long before they started discussing marriage. Then, still laughing, Nie Zhenbang asked, "Did this young guy make any demands? There must be something more to his racket than just causing trouble." Nie Zhenbang thought it was unlikely that he just wanted to shut them down. It wouldn't be so bad if he made some demands, but if he didn't ask for anything, that would be a problem. If all he wanted was to shut them down, that would be difficult to deal with. He did. He wants 60% of our gross income each month. If that's the case, we might as well close our doors. The rent, taxes, labor costs, and product loss all fall on us. At this point, we're surviving on small profits. The profit on most of our merchandise isn't very high. At the most, it's only about 30%. So, if we agree to his demand, all our profits will end up in his pocket. At this moment, Yang Onbong looked quite irritated. As the distinguished second young master Yang, he was being bullied by a newcomer. He would be the laughing stock if word got out. A pure profit of 30% was already significant. In the future, when consumer goods became more plentiful and competition increased, supermarket operators who could achieve more than 20% pure profit would be considered lucky. Of course, at this time, most goods were scarce, with many requiring ration tickets. Only people like Yang Onbong and Nie Zhenbang had the resources to secure such a wide array of goods. Whereas others tended to mark up prices, places like the Walmart supermarket were considered budget-friendly in comparison. 60%. Nie Zhenbang's brows wrinkled. If he had only asked for 10%, a proportional share of the pure profit, Nie Zhenbang would have been willing to give it to him. Including conservative figures in supermarket operations was a good way to twist their arms. However, asking for so much was overstepping. Even if this Yu Yang fellow dares to ask for it, Nie Zhenbang would not dare to give it. If he did, the reputation of the Nie and Yang families would be ruined. It would be seen as incompetence. Sometimes, face is everything, especially in situations like this. So that's why the second young master Yang has been avoiding me these days, it's because the main guy is back. A piercing voice rang out. Following the voice, a young man walked in arrogantly from outside, surrounded by a swarm of followers. He sported a slicked-back hairstyle, wore large leather shoes with jeans, and a down jacket that was rarely seen in the country at that time. The young man looked Nie Zhenbang up and down, took out a panda cigarette and stuck it in his mouth. A sidekick came up immediately, lighting the cigarette for him. He blew a puff of smoke towards Nie Zhenbang and said, "So you're Nie Zhenbang, the third young master of the Nie family. Allow me to introduce myself." Before the young man could finish speaking, Nie Zhenbang waved his hand, looked at him, and sneered, "Who do you think you are, being so arrogant in front of me?" Chapter 39. The number one person in the Crown Prince's party. This statement was truly audacious. It said, "Hit a man but not his face." In the Jingcheng circle, there's a kind of unspoken rule like this. No matter how severe a quarrel is or who wins or loses, it doesn't matter. However, if you show contempt for him, it's seen as formally declaring an enmity. Whenever an opportunity arises, even if there's no real opportunity, he will want to crush you. Back in the day, there were such occurrences among the old stubborn members of this circle. The results were tragic, with some being killed and others being detained. The one who committed the murder is allegedly still being held in a prison in Tianshan province. By speaking in such a way now, Nie Zhenbang has broken the unwritten rule. As a person who had a reincarnation, he is knowledgeable about the rules of the circle. Furthermore, in the posterior age, news about the sons of well-off families, the privileged second generation, and some affluent second-generation people was emerging constantly. Given this, Nie Zhenbang decides to use this opportunity to set a new melody which is not only for the children of wealthy families but also for the entire privileged second generation in the country. Good, good. Nie Zhenbang, Oh Jung, will remember you. I hope you're still this arrogant later. The young man named Oh Jung is the youngest son of Oh Wahun, the newly appointed state councillor. At this moment, Nie Zhenbang did not even glance at Oh Jung, instead letting his gaze sweep across the crowd. A hint of a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth as he said, "Oh, almost everybody seems to be here today. Looks like all the important people of Jingcheng have arrived. Seeing this, I may as well take this opportunity to say a few words." With that, he turned to Oh Jung, saying, "Listen up, kid. I'm going to teach you today why you're nothing. There are quite a few heirs apparent and princesses in Jingcheng. But do you know why there's hardly any scandal about them? There are two reasons. Firstly, no matter how wild they are outside, they still have some family education within their homes. Each family has a bottom line. The common people are too distant from us. It's no big deal to abuse the commoners relying on the privileges inherited from older generations. We all look down upon such behaviors. It's like the difference between an elephant and an ant. They're simply not at the same level, and there's no sense of achievement at all." The word circle refers to a group where people have more or less the same background. It's more interesting to fight and play within such a group. Even if one loses, it's not a big deal. One can always win the next time. That's what happens in the circle. But you, Oh Jung, didn't do that. Ever since you came to Jingcheng, you've ruined many women's lives. Is this because of your father who is a state councillor? If so, bring it on, Oh Jung. If I, Nie Zhenbang, get scared of you, I am a product of a dog. And let me tell you, I don't think highly of you at all. Today, I'm setting a rule here. If anyone in the circle tries to bully the common people relying on their power, I, Nie Zhenbang, will surely intervene. Those who don't agree are welcome to give it a try. Brother Nie's words resonate with me. I had been wondering why I had become so well behaved recently, and now I know why. It's indeed boring to play with the common people. Li Special Period, am the first one to agree. Li Special Period shouted from the crowd. Nie Zhenbang looked around and quickly spotted Nie Zhenbang, who was giving him a thumbs up and smiling at him. With Nie Zhenbang and his group's support, the people under Yang Onbong also began to cheer. It's nothing new for Nie Zhenbang and Yang Onbong to partner up in business. Everyone knows what they should do at this time. The descendants of the red nobility have this kind of perception. Meanwhile, the solitary investors also nodded in agreement. Whether in the past or now, or even in the future, there have been very few scandals among the children emerging from the real red families that Nie has in his recollection. This is mainly due to three reasons. The first is family education. Although they're not easy to deal with, they're not willing to bully the people. Second, even if they did, thanks to the elite education they received from the red families since childhood, they basically have control over the fallout. It's utterly impossible for them to make it known to everyone. Thirdly, like Nie Zhenbang said, there's too much disparity and it's simply beneath them. Young Master Zheng, let's withdraw today. The situation is stronger than we thought. This Nie Zhenbang, look at his might. His call can summon all in Jingcheng. He's absolutely the numero uno. One of Oh Jung's followers murmured. Slap. Oh Jung slapped the follower across his face without mercy, shouting angrily, "What the fuck are you talking about? Number 1. You mean him, a bastard child. What does he amount to?" After finishing his words, Oh Jung then turned to Nie Zhenbang. Very good, Nie Zhenbang. You've successfully irritated me. I tell you, your fucking supermarket will not open. Wait for someone to come and seal the entrance tomorrow. Oh Jung didn't realize that by doing this, he was making himself the target of public anger. People like Oh Jung, who joined the circle midway, have no idea about the rules among the people in the Jingcheng circle. When considering power, which family sitting here does not have a few deputy ministerial or even some vice premier level figures? The Nie family, for instance, has real party and state leaders, with their patriarch being the 5th ranking leader in the political bureau. Nie Zhenbang smiled at this. He wanted Oh Jung to do exactly this, otherwise, it would have been difficult for him to make a move. Watching Oh Jung prepare to retreat, Nie Zhenbang chuckled, "Young master. Oh, Tut tut, you're just going to leave like that. What do you take this place for? Wait for it to be shut down. That's indeed a great display of official power. I wonder if young Master O is now a member of the Bureau of Industry and Commerce or the Taxation Department. Or has young Master O perhaps already joined the Political Bureau? What gives you the right? Are you relying on your father's power? You should ask around, which official position here is smaller than your father's? If that's the case, we can certainly chat. At this moment, Yang Onbong looked at Oh Jung as if he were an idiot, saying solemnly, Oh Jung, Yang Onbong, am not exaggerating. If your dad dares to help you, I guarantee he will retire tomorrow. The circle in Jingcheng is not a playground for your O family. Once here, you need to follow the rules of Jingcheng. Young Master O, the name is really good. Brother Nie, you're not thinking about hitting the young master, are you? Li's special period started to heckle from the periphery. At this moment, Nie Zhenbang took off his coat, bowed with his fists and said, Guys, kindly clear some space. According to our rules, one who seeks a fight cannot just leave. If it were so, we could go to someone's place every other day, threaten them and then leave. Since he's here, we must have a contest. Oh Jung, not to belittle you, today, no matter if you want a group fight or a duel, Nie Zhenbang, accept. At this moment, Oh Jung was also sweating profusely. The depth of the Jingcheng circle was something he hadn't completely comprehended until now. Nie Zhenbang, the illegitimate son, was said to be powerful and influential in the Jingcheng circle. Especially now, when the Nie family is facing public condemnation from the national media, it appears as if they are being condemned to the 18th level of hell. Wanting to grab some profits from Nie Zhenbang's pocket, Oh Jung now realizes he's hitting a hard brick. Looking at Nie Zhenbang, Oh Jung felt a chill in his heart. The waters of Jingcheng are really too deep. Nie Zhenbang is truly worthy of his reputation as the top person in Jingcheng's princeling circle. Upon thinking of this, Oh Jung gritted his teeth, waved his hand and ordered, Brothers, let's all go together. I don't believe that Nie Zhenbang has grown 3 heads and 6 arms. There are so many of us, we're not afraid of him. With that said, at Oh Jung's call, a group of followers charged towards Nie Zhenbang along with Oh Jung. Chapter 40, The Leader's Attitude. Do it together. Nie Zhenbang sneered, charging in at once. He began demonstrating shape-intent fist. His blows whipped up a wind. All that could be heard were painful wails and screams. Most of Oh Jung's henchmen were brought over from Jiangnan province. The remaining few were recruited right here in Jingcheng. They don't know anything about fighting techniques they usually get by with a superior number of fighters. More often than not, they rely on their positions of power to oppress others. But right now, they're facing someone even tougher, and their authority isn't working. Oh Jung and his gang withered on the spot. Nie Zhenbang didn't have to exert much energy at all. In a flash, the whole gang was lying incapacitated on the ground, with Oh Jung's arm broken. Now, he is the one screaming the loudest. When Nie Zhenbang went into action, he made sure to exercise restraint. The others were just small-time flunkies. Nie Zhenbang went easy on them. But as for Oh Jung, Nie Zhenbang didn't show any such courtesy. Breaking both his arms was a lesson to him, not to stir up trouble again. Next time won't be so gentle. Watching as Oh Jung was carried away, everyone cheered. Yang Onbong reveled in the excitement at that moment. Brothers, thank you all for bearing witness. Tonight, Zhenbang and I are treating everyone to a meal at the capital restaurant, in the Tan family's room. We won't leave until we're drunk. The evening came. The entire Tan family room at the capital restaurant was reserved solely by Nie Zhenbang. The whole city's princes and princesses showed up like never before. The gentlemen naturally gathered together. The sound of the 30-year-old Moutai being served was like a gift from heaven. The noise of merriment filled the air, echoing back and forth. The banquet finally ended around 9 o'clock in the evening. Nie Zhenbang, by this time, had drunk nearly 2 liters of white wine and was a little tipsy. It was funny to think that in this life, Nie Zhenbang's alcohol tolerance owes much to his past life. This time, even though he didn't drink a tremendous amount, his tolerance seemed to have been passed down to him. Staggering a little, Nie Zhenbang passed through the checkpoint of his red-walled mansion. As soon as he stepped into his house, he saw his grandfather sitting on the main seat in the living room, his face grim. Next to him sat a slightly balding, plump elder with a somber expression on his face, looking for him. "Grandpa, why haven't you gone to bed yet?" Nie Zhenbang greeted his grandfather as soon as he entered the door. At this moment, Elder Nie nodded and said, "Zhenbang, come sit down. Let me introduce you. This is our newly appointed state councilor, Uncle Owahun." These words sobered up Nie Zhenbang quite a bit. Nie Zhenbang never expected that the O family would go to such lengths, having the parent of a 20-something-year-old son who gets into fights come over to their house. Looking at Owahun, Nie Zhenbang noticed that Owahun was staring back at him. Before he could even utter a word, Owahun's eyes flashed a dark glint and he chuckled, "Elder Nie, this must be Zhenbang. He indeed has a dignified presence and good looks." Grandpa at this moment turned to Nie Zhenbang and asked, "Zhenbang, did you beat up the councilman's son today? You see, you don't know how to control your strength during a fight. You broke his arm." Hearing the tone of his grandfather's words, Nie Zhenbang could tell that his grandfather was likely to side with him. With his grandfather's character, he wouldn't have been so cordial. He would have berated and scolded. He wouldn't have spoken so favorably. Feeling surprised, Nie Zhenbang answered, "Grandpa, are you serious? At that time, Oh Jung was leading a dozen people to hit me. I didn't fight back that hard. How did he break his arm then? Yang Onbong and everyone else was there. Our rules dictate we do so. I have no idea how he broke his arm." By now, Owahun had figured it out. At the same time, he heard the truth. It turns out his son went with a bunch of his friends to beat up one man, lost, and got injured. At this point, Owahun's face was burning with embarrassment. This incident isn't a secret. Anyone interested can easily find out what happened. Nie Zhenbang is definitely not lying. "Elder Nie, you truly have a tiger for a grandson. I never dreamed your grandson could be so formidable. I've been rude in this matter. Another day, I'll come over again to apologize in person. Please forgive the misunderstanding this time due to the rashness of my son. Elder Nie, I must take my leave now." Owahun couldn't press further in this matter without feeling embarrassed and hastily took his leave. Once Owahun left, Elder Nie resumed his calm demeanor, and while sizing up Nie Zhenbang, he nodded in approval after a while. "Not bad. You remind me of myself, unlike your father who has always been indecisive since his youth and lacks assertiveness. This is all because he was spoiled by your grandmother. You, on the other hand, grew up outside and seem to be doing well in various aspects." Having said that, Elder Nie turned serious. "Zhenbang, you must be extra careful during this period. The current situation is uncertain and you should maintain a low profile. The time for you to act freely will only come in the next 2 years." These words startled Nie Zhenbang. The old man was indeed no pushover. Even though he was entrenched in the military, he had an astute understanding of matters. Historically, the next 2 years were precarious until the 1990s, when everything normalized after a new leader took over. With this in mind, Nie Zhenbang immediately nodded and responded, "Don't worry, grandfather. I know what to do. Besides, I plan to go to the Soviet Union in a few days." This statement, however, took Elder Nie by surprise. At this point, national diplomatic relations with the Soviet Union were still frosty. There were not any apparent signs of a thaw in relations, and going to the Soviet Union through formal means was highly unlikely. However, going there privately raised a big question about Nie Zhenbang's safety. At this point, Elder Nie was conflicted. Among the third generation, Nie Zhenbang was more of a guardian and less of a risk-taker. Nie Zhenbang, on the other hand, was clearly made for a military life. Politics and power struggles were completely foreign to him. Only his grandson, who had grown up among common folk, showed promise and gave Elder Nie hope. After a moment of silence, Elder Nie looked at Nie Zhenbang and asked, "Are you certain you want to go to the Soviet Union at this time?" Before Nie Zhenbang could respond, a hearty laughter came from outside. "Old Nie, what's this I hear about someone going to the Soviet Union?" Following the sound, both Elder Nie and Nie Zhenbang were shocked. The head of state, why was he here? Elder Nie quickly recovered, got up swiftly, and went to greet him. "Leader, why are you here?" The head of state, however, just waved with a smile on his face, came into the living room, sat straight down on the sofa, and chuckled, "Old Nie, don't be so formal. We were equals during the anti-Japanese war and we were classmates. There's no need for such formalities. There's no leader here, only brothers. I overheard something about the Soviet Union. Are you planning to send Zhenbang there? This is not the best time. Gorbachev is not an easy figure to deal with, much like Khrushchev. At this point, Elder Nie was fully at ease. Since the Nie family had been pushed to the side of the reformists, Elder Nie was no longer stubborn. He went on to share Nie Zhenbang's analysis of the Soviet Union and his reasons for wanting to go there with the head of state. The head of state's expression also turned serious at this point, and he looked at Nie Zhenbang and questioned, "Zhenbang, where did you get this information? We have a lot of people in the 3rd Bureau of the General Staff Department in the Soviet Union who don't know anything about this. Are you sure about this? The country has its own channels and spies." The head of state was somewhat puzzled. From Elder Nie's just spoken words, it would appear that there might be some truth to it. Still, why did the country get no clues? This is what baffled the head of state. At this moment, Nie Zhenbang also felt a little awkward. He certainly couldn't admit to his reincarnation. Having no other choice, he ambiguously said, "Leader, it's just my speculation. That's why I want to go there personally to see for myself." Faced with the prospect of obtaining industrial equipment, mother machines for machine tools, as well as researchers and their data that the nation urgently needed, the head of state pondered for a while, then made his decision. He looked at Elder Nie and said, "Old Nie, I'd like to discuss something with you. I want to adopt Zhenbang as my foster grandson. We are preparing to hold a small-scale acknowledging ceremony. What do you think?" This statement instantly surprised both Elder Nie and Nie Zhenbang. The intentions of the head of state were made very clear here. Thank you for watching. Continue exploring the fascinating world of Chinese novels with us. Hit that subscribe button on Chinese Novel Audiobook to stay updated with our latest stories. And never miss out on a great listen.